Okay, we are back from our closed session. City Attorney, what reportable action do we have?
Yes, Mayor and Council. So in closed session, Councilmember Guerra made a motion to pay the claim of NIAC, also known as Kings View Corp., in the amount of $8,617.51. Councilmember Trujillo seconded that motion. Councilmember Guerra voted yes. Councilmember Trujillo voted yes. Councilmember Mendoza Navarro voted yes. Mayor Pro Tem voted yes, and Mayor Robertson voted yes. The motion passed 5-0.
Okay, and we have decided as council to continue the workshop on the discussion and direction, council priorities and goals, given the limited amount of time. And with that, we will adjourn the Selma City Council special meeting and start up again at 6 o'clock for the Selma City Council regular meeting. Okay, with that, we'll start our Selma City Council regular meeting. It is April 18th, 2022, 6 p.m. in the Selma City Council chambers at 1710 Tucker Street, Selma, California, 93662. The teleconference phone number is 1301-715-8592. The webinar ID is 876-0996-3378. We'll be conducting this meeting in accordance with AB 361 and Government Code Section 54953. It will be held remotely. Members of the public may access the meeting using the preceding information. When you're on the phone, if you wish to address the council during the public comment portion of the agenda, press *9 to raise hand, and we will select you from the meeting queue. Press *6 to unmute and mute yourself. Tonight's invocation will be led by Pastor Joe Alvarez of the Iglesia Antioquia.
Mayor, City Council, let's pray. Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, we just thank you right now for this opportunity to come and get to do your will, Heavenly Father. We just put this meeting in your hands right now, asking you for direction, wisdom, and Heavenly Father, we just ask you that you approve everything that we do, Heavenly Father, and everything that takes place right now in this meeting to glorify you and to honor, Heavenly Father, you and your citizens that you have here in the city of Selma. In the name of Jesus Christ, we thank you and we love you with all our hearts, and we all say, amen.
Please stand for them.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag of the United States of America.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Here.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro. Here. Councilmember Trujillo,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho.
Here.
Mayor Robertson.
Here, potential conflicts of interest. Any council member who has potential conflict of interest may announce the item now and recuse themselves from discussing or voting on the matter. Oral communications. At this time, any member of the public may address the city council on any issue within its jurisdiction, but not on the agenda. No action or discussion will take place on any items brought up during oral communications. Items of interest will be referred to the city manager for further review. Speakers are asked to limit their remarks to 3 minutes. Does anyone have any comments they would like to make at this time?
Joan Nelson, 1058 Mill Street. Again, I am here in support of Shane Farrell. I was here 2 weeks ago with no answers, and I was told it was a personnel matter and you couldn't address it. However, I have a comment for you 3 council members and the city manager.
Ma'am, I would ask you to address the city council.
Okay. Do you know what the largest industry is in the Central Valley? It's farming. Most of the farmers learned from the ground up. They don't have degrees. They worked from early in the morning till late at night. They dug ditches, they planted trees, and learned everything they needed to know about their land. They run multi-million-dollar business. They work with pride and love for their land. Shane Farrell works like that. He has worked for the city for 19 years, from early in the morning till late at night. If you call him on a Sunday evening and say you have graffiti on a fence, he will be down there at 6 in the morning. He knows how to dig ditches, manage time, and run crews. All the paperwork needed to do so. Asking all of you to reconsider your choice of as our public city works. I wish you would start listening to everyone. We are the citizens of Selma.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else who would like to say anything at this time?
Follow 1701 Danube Avenue. The traffic pattern at Floral and southbound 99 is atrocious. And I know you've heard it from lots of people. but it is just, you can't get through there. I have stopped going to Walmart and JCPenney and anything else because it's so frustrating to get back to the other side of town from there. It's just people getting off the freeway, and then it doesn't help that people don't know how to drive. They get off the freeway and they're stopped in the middle of the intersection because there's nowhere for them to go, but they aren't smart enough to stay behind the line. So it just makes for a humongous traffic mess. And I was just wondering if the city was going to address that in any way. Can you address that? I know 99 and Caltrans has a lot to do with that, but Floral belongs to us. And is there anything that can be done to alleviate that? I don't know, make that turn lane that goes north from Floral to Highland, make it longer, because those people are blocking the rest of the people going through because they're trying to get into the turn lane, and it's such a short turn lane that the traffic gets backed up there. So I don't know, but I know it's because on the underpass, there isn't that much room, but if there's any way to make that turn lane longer, it might help. It's just a mess. And I'm just, like I said, I personally don't even want to shop at that end of town anymore. And I know that I'm just one person, but if more people feel that way, we're losing money sales tax wise, revenue wise, if people aren't shopping in that shopping center. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Fernando, I know exactly where she's talking about, but I was looking at it, that medium where they're saying to make that left turn to go to Highland. Is there any way they can break that down and just make it a small little medium, and maybe that'll make more room for that turning lane? Because I know exactly what she's talking about. I mean, I see it and it's very frustrating. And I noticed that medium is pretty wide. So is there any way they can maybe shrink that?
Potentially. I know Caltrans is currently undertaking a feasibility study to make improvements at that particular intersection or interchange. It is within their right of way, but I know one of the options being thrown out there by Caltrans, and I don't know if this is something that they're going to propose, but roundabouts is something that they're looking at when you're getting off of the freeway on the southbound exit. But the median, I don't think is something that I've ever heard in terms of reducing the length of the median. So it's something we can bring up and to incorporate into their
Kind of look
study.
at it and
Mhm.
see. I thought maybe they can just shrink that up, break it into just making it maybe a 4-inch, 6-inch, and then that'll give them that much more of a turning lane.
I'm sorry, you're referring to the width. I understood
Right.
the length. Okay,
Mhm.
got it. Thank you.
Is a roundabout. And I don't know how possible that is there because it's just, that was one of the things that someone had mentioned to me.
Yeah, and that would eliminate the need for potentially a traffic signal there at that interchange. And then for people getting off of the freeway, taking the roundabout to go directly into the shopping center across the street. So I don't know what it would look like.
Yeah, and this should probably be an agendized item because other members of the public might be interested in it.
I know we can't have any more council members weigh in on this. I would
Correct.
make it an agenda item.
That's right.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else have any oral communications at this time?
413 Country Club Lane. I also would like to speak on behalf of Shane Farrell tonight. Proud man, and we're very proud of him for all that he's done for Selma, and we do hope that there's some changes in the consideration. Anything that we can do to make that change. I mean, he's our man, and we're very proud of him. So thank you very much, and thank you, Shane.
Anyone else like to make a comment?
Jim Avalo, 1701 Dinuba Avenue. It's a quick question. City manager.
You'll have to address the
Oh,
council.
address the
Mr.
okay, that's-
Avalos,
okay,
thank you.
Council in general. Everybody on board here. Where are we at on the, actually the Dinuba overpass on the physics studies? Where are we at on that issue there, guys? That would kind of eliminate some of the issues that she was talking about, issues in our city, eliminate a lot of the Caltrans issues. It'll kind of open the corridor in the Golden State that we have plans to utilize that new money to operational.
That's a good question. I think because this is oral communications and we don't do the back and forth
Yeah.
during oral community, it has to be an agendized item. I would refer this matter to the city manager as an item of potential further interest, as
Yeah.
it seems like it's a traffic issue that would go with the previous items as
'Cause
well.
It's been an ongoing issue. So we need to address some of those issues. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else have a comment at this time? We have anybody on Zoom or on the phone?
City Council and Mayor. My name is Robert Cervantes. I'm here, first of all, I'm here to thank our new city manager, Fernando. Thank you for. your
Please
work.
address the council, sir. Do not address the city manager. Please
Sir,
address
don't
the city
interrupt me when
council.
I'm talking.
Thank you.
So anyways, I want to address this to our city manager, Fernando. Thank you for, hopefully that this community get behind him, because we're getting to know that every
So,
city manager we
Mayor,
have.
all comments have to be directed to the city
All your
council.
comments, sir,
Okay.
need to be
All right.
directed to the city
I'm
council.
directing this to the city council.
Thank you.
So anyways, we need to get behind this man, because we're getting to know that everybody that comes to this as a city manager is always getting a bad rap or getting fired and stuff like that. Pretty soon, we won't have city managers in here.
I
And
appreciate
our
your
city will
comments,
never-
but we can't have comments about personnel at this time.
What was that?
We can't have comments about city manager in particular. I'd appreciate if you keep your comments general. City manager, can you assist with this? Are
Well,
you okay
all
with
right.
the citizen?
Sure, the
Yeah.
previous
comments,
comments
the
were
tenor of
about
the
personnel as well.
comments? Okay, then please continue, sir.
Okay, what's wrong with that? So can you put some time back into my clock? Because you guys
Can you give
wasted a lot
him-
of my
can you give
time
him
already.
Another minute, please, city
So-
clerk, or start him over again. How's that, sir?
I appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
Okay. So anyways, so I don't get no more interruptions in here. I'm addressing about our new city manager. And I hope that our city gets behind our new city manager and let them do their work, not micromanagement or anything like that, because it doesn't work. The losers, we are the losers, because we're never going to get Selma rolling and, prosperous and become a good city. Other cities around us are doing much better than we are. I mean, we're right in the middle of a good place. We've got the freeways and everything in here, but we can't get our ducks rolling because we're always, trying to bring whoever's a city manager, we always try and bring them down. So let's work with our city managers and give them a hand, help them out. And whatever decision they make with employments and everything like that, it's them. They're the ones that making the calls. We don't know anything about employees or anything like that. They might be good workers, yes. But at the end of the day, it's the city manager, the council, and everybody here that do their job. And that's why they were hired to put in there. So please, let's all get behind our members, city council, city manager, the mayor. Mayor, I wish that you won't micromanage everybody around here. So, but
Sir,
thank
you're
you
allowed
so
to
much.
make negative comments against me.
All
I
right,
thank you
have a
for
good
your
day.
comments. I thank everybody for their comments and exercising their right of free speech. That's what our country is all about. Do we have anybody else who would like to make a comment at this time?
Alvarez, 1383 South Locan. I just want to thank the police department and city public works and everybody, because we had some, well, like every other church, had some great events this weekend. We had some visitors from out of town and they were just so, I guess they had some issues with PD. The PD behaved awesome with them and they just, they just got a great service. They had a great vibe here and they just had a great time here in Selma. And I just kept hearing what a great little city, and what, some awesome jobs are going on here. And so it just made me proud. It just made me proud because I know that we're doing some great things here in Selma. And I just pray that we continue to work together and make the city a better place to be visited by a lot of different people. And when people come here, they don't just hear the negative. they hear the positive, because there's a lot of great positive things that are happening. So I just want to thank you guys. Thank you for all your guys' hard work.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have anyone else who'd like to say anything at this time? Anyone on Zoom, on the phone? That we will go from oral communications to our first special presentation tonight from the Chriscom Company.
Evening, Mayor and Council and City Manager. Jason Segan, Chief Operating Officer with the Chriscom Company. And first off, I just want to say it's a pleasure to be here in person. I think we've done the last few of these over Zoom, and I, for one, am kind of tired of Zooming. And it's good to see real people and shake the mayor's hand and city manager's hand. So hopefully the worst is behind us and we'll be able to do this more and more often. So we are doing the governmental affairs. We've been doing that for a number of years for the City of Selma. We have been a community partner for a long time. And I first just want to say we've got a new person local who's here, who you guys may have seen at some of the community events. And I wanted to introduce Emily Engelgard, our newest employee. She lives in Visalia. But that doesn't mean you're going to get rid of seeing me or talking to me. Fernando and I have a bi-weekly phone call and Zoom now. So we are in constant communication. So we've got a lot of good things cooking right now for the city. And I'm especially energized with the way the state's looking right now. We've got a number of budget requests that have been put to our assembly member and our senator, but also we put those to our congressperson. And we've got the Selma infrastructure, which has been on our list for a number of years now to improve the Selma infrastructure. We are looking at $6 million, trying to obtain $6 million for a new fire station. That was on our list from last year as well. And also trying to equip the PD with body worn cameras. That's a new one on our list that we started to work on. And kind of interesting with that is I had kicked over a grant opportunity from the Department of Justice that came out for body worn cameras. And I had sent that over to the city manager and he sent it to Acting Chief Garza. And so we are looking at going after that grant opportunity for the city. But in the meantime, we don't like to just go after one thing. So we're going to do the grant. We submitted it as an appropriations request with our congressman's office because last year there was a $400,000 request that was done through Kings County Sheriffs. And that was an appropriation done through the community programs program through the Appropriations Committee at the federal level last year. And so we thought it would be a good opportunity for us to go after that again, but for the City of Selma this year. It's we're asking for a lot less money, smaller department, and we're hopeful that it'll be able to get funded through there. But hedging our bets, we're going to go after the grant as well, and we submitted it to our assembly member and to our senator's office as well. Also, EIFD, that acronym has been wearing on us for quite some time. And I want to thank the city manager and the city attorney for spending a lot of time with me over the last few months here, going and digging through this. We actually have an assembly bill now that has been authored by Assembly Member Arambula. And if all goes well, we will be having our first committee hearing coming up on May 4th. I actually got word today that we are dialing back the bill a bit. So we decided to go after a piece of legislation that would enable a community that did not get a notice of completion to go after, and once everything is in order, go after and establish an EIFD. Mayor, you know this conversation we've had for a number of years. Department of Finance was not very excited and hasn't been very excited to support something like this. We've had a number of conversations with them that have been less than spirited, I would say. They're very serious folks. It's been a lot of fun though. So we decided with committee, we're working hand in hand with the local governance committee of the assembly. And we decided at this point, today, I actually just got word on the way up here from the assembly member's office and from the committee consultant that we're gonna pare it down a little bit and make it a Selma specific bill. Because through our conversations with Department of Finance, they're whole thing is we don't want to open the doors and the floodgates to everybody. So we feel, and this is what the Assembly Committee feels at this point, is more palatable to go after a specific city-sponsored bill. So that's the piece of legislation. The legislation right now that's in print, AB 2780, isn't the current piece because now that new stuff is being vetted by legal counsel up at the Capitol. So I will keep you all posted on when that hearing is going to be. We're going to see what the structure is going to be like, if we're going to be allowed to come up and have a few minutes of time to testify, or if they're just going to want us to submit letters. But we're going to be prepared for it. Right now, we're holding May 4th as that date for that committee hearing. And it's just a matter of how packed that committee is going to be at that time, how many bills they're going to be listening to, and what they're trying to get done in terms of work that day, how much time they're going to give us. So I will definitely give you guys enough leeway on that and heads up. So maybe we can all go up there and show up in force.
Let us know.
We're going to
That'll
try.
get
Yeah,
it
we're
done.
throwing everything in the kitchen sink right now at this to make it happen. And the assembly, I just have to give a shout out to our assembly member. He's been a great partner and carrying this piece of legislation when really we've been told no for so many years. And he decided through this pitch and through his chief of staff, Eusebio Padilla, that is something that he wants to support this year and really thinks we can make a difference in it this year. So we're going for it. And we'll definitely, I know Fernando's kept you guys all in the loop. We also have been tracking the volumes and volumes of legislation that have been coming through right now in this final session of the 2022 cycle. I actually just emailed this sheet to the city manager Friday of last week, and it's filled with 14 pages of legislation that may have an impact on any municipalities. And so he said he's going to be sharing that with you all. If you guys have any questions, my cell phone number is typed on the back, my email. So please don't be shy. I know you guys aren't shy, but please don't be shy. Please reach out if you have a question about some obscure bill that's in there that you feel is troublesome, or you just want to have more information on. We're very happy to provide that. And even if we want to go on the record and submit a support letter or an opposition letter. We are also tracking the California initiative that is in the signature phase right now for the local taxes. There's a Cal Cities is pushing hard against this one. It's basically going to try to mitigate the powers of cities from levying taxes, create a 2/3 majority vote that needs to happen. It's still in the very infancy stage of this process, but they're trying to get it. They got they're in the signature phase for the November 8th election.
What would that be?
So it's going to be an initiative to change state law. And it will, I can give you the quick rundown right now, the 2-second version. Bear with me. It's going to be for any new state taxes that requires voter approval. And it's also for new local taxes. Local governing bodies must approve by 2/3 any taxes it proposes, and voters' approval must occur in general elections. And it expands the definition of taxes. So that's the gist of it right now. It's still in the initiative phase, but I'll keep you guys posted on that and how that goes.
Would that change the 218 rules or anything?
Yeah, it's going to amend. It's going to change the whole structure of it.
The whole way taxes are levied?
But we're keeping an eye on it. Cal Cities is really taking a hard stand against it. So more will come out soon.
Posted.
We talked about the infrastructure money. We talked about, so our request, obviously the sewer infrastructure is priority number 1, the fire station, and also going after the body worn cameras. And then the final thing is, well, 2 things. I wanted to thank the chiefs over here for jumping on and getting letters of support for our appropriations requests to be sent to the congressman's office. In the new era of appropriations, you have to have backup upon backup upon backup, and you've got to show a need, and you've got to have letters from folks that are expressing that need. And so these 2 gentlemen jumped right on it and got us letters right away. So we are in the game for that, and we need to stand by and see how that all plays out. And with that, we have to address and look at redistricting at our levels, because we're going to be in a different congressional district come November. We'll have a different congressperson. And we're also going to have a different senator. So unfortunately, Senator Hurtado, who has been a great friend and done a lot of good things here, is moving and now is going to be running for Senate District 16. So if we decide to go east and annex some land that way, we can get her back as a state senator. Otherwise, right now we're going to be put in SD 14, which the won't say the favorite to win that seat, but the front runner at this point is Senator Ana Caballero, who has been a state senator for a number of years. She's been in for 8 years. We've done a lot of work with that senator's office, and we'll work with whoever comes in, but she's a seasoned veteran. And then our assembly member will remain the same. Well, granted, with the election, depending on what happens, but we are still in Assembly Member Arambula's district. With that, any questions? Anything else I could provide you guys? Like I said, once you get that list, please let me know if you have any questions on any of those pieces of legislation. We're tracking them. We send those updates out every 2 weeks or so, depending on what action happens at the State House and what bills are being heard. A lot of them are just now, you'll notice a lot of those bills are very high numbered bills because we're in the second year of the session. And so these are all new bills that were introduced after this second half started. And once the second half starts, they get high numbers. And now we're going through the first committee processes, and we're going to get going through the rest of the year when they end up breaking at the end of September.
Jason, I have a quick question.
Yes.
The grants normally are due by what day or month?
The grants, depending on what?
Or the
Like,
appropriations?
the
that you'll
appropriation
be-
requests?
Yes.
So every year it's a little different. It goes on what, at the federal level, it goes upon what the appropriations committee decides. And so this last session, this last round, the senator's office, or I'm sorry, the congressman's office asked for them all to be put in April. April 15th was his cutoff date, but that is a date established by his office. And so the committees itself at the federal side start looking at this stuff towards the beginning of May. There is no clear-cut cycle, unfortunately, like at the state level.
Right.
When we get an appropriations request put in at the state level, we know if we live or die by
Right.
June 15th, because our assembly members and our senators don't get paid if that budget isn't passed by June 15th. And then it has to be enacted by July 1st. So we know where we stand. With the appropriation cycle at the federal level, for example, the ones that happened last year,
Mhm.
just now in March, were finally approved by the Senate and signed by the president. And so those appropriations, while the Congressional House of Representatives were putting out press releases and very happy that their bills and items got approved back in September, nothing happened until the Senate took them up. And then literally middle of March, they ended up being approved and President Biden signed those. And so we're in a very weird kind of cycle when it comes to the federal government, because now we've got them in with Congressman Valadeo, but there's a real opportunity or chance or realization that by November of next year, we're going to be in a different district, and these could still be kind of dangling out there. So it's just that the whole redistricting election stuff kind of throws this cycle every 10 years for a bit of a loop. But yeah, so his office requested those in by April 15th. Congressman Costa's office requested them in by April 17th. There's a congressperson down south we're working with that requested them in by April 21st. So it's more, it gives their office time to vet the process, go through, and each office has a little bit different process in doing it. Congressman Costa's office asked for a little more information, but didn't really put a big presence on the letters right now, because they feel like if we're going to push forward with this, we're going to need more letters. So let's not do that fire drill right now. Let's wait a little bit. So it's up to each congressional member. Yeah.
Jason, I have a
Sure.
couple of things. First, I want to thank you. And I know that you mentioned that for any council member who wants to learn or know how the process works, you'll guide them through that. And I'm actually one of them that participated a couple of years ago. So I want to thank you for that. I was able to look at the process, how it's run through, and we even went and, we walked through every senator or assembly, and you
Yeah.
took us through there. So thank you for that. In regards to Caballero, that's a heavy hitter. Will that will that up our chances when we're going to be doing some legislative requests or what we're going to be doing them?
You know, she's been there longer than Senator Hurtado, but Senator Hurtado came out of the gate swinging and has been just as effective, if not more so, in bringing some dollars back to her district. So it's going to be a hurt. I mean, because we've known Senator Hurtado, and she loves her district, and it's just because of redistricting that, you know, things changed. And so that's just kind of what happens when, you know, you have a great independent redistricting commission and they don't look at affiliation or anything like that, and that's what happens. So, but yeah, both of them are you know, I wish we could get both of them, have both of them, but you know, not gonna work.
So just you know, on my part, I want to thank you for all the hard work you guys been doing.
Appreciate that. And I really just, while I have the opportunity, just thank Fernando for the time he spent with us as well. I can text him, call him anytime, and he gets right on the phone, and it's been a great working relationship. And I think it's evident by some of the stuff that we have moving right now, to have the support. And I know all of you guys support us as well, but the day-to-day support's been great.
Will Senator Caballero, will she be as focused on the water issues as State Senator Hurtado was?
Yeah, I believe so. I can't speak for her, but she shares a lot of the Central Valley as well. Her current district went from the coast, so up in the like Salinas, and then came back down, and then came down the Central Valley. So she did have she lost the coastal part of her district, but she's from the Central Valley. She focuses on the Central Valley. And so they've been great partners on a number of initiatives that I know of. And it literally just came down to two of them being put in the same district, and somebody had to flinch. So
Specifically, we have that project where we need to get that water to the basin. Are we, and we're in the finish line of that, how are we looking for a water conveyance project grant at this point?
So we've got a lot of work to do still. We're still working with Senator Hurtado's office. We're trying to get things going in that realm. I mean, I know it's important. Water's always important. And Senator Hurtado has been a great champion for that. And I don't think we're going to lose anything with Senator Caballero in that regard. And we do have Assemblymember Rambouillet still. He's running for re-election. So he knows Selma, he knows the needs. And he was in here when he was running for office the first time. I remember that. Say nothing but great things about Selma. And this is where he practiced medicine at one point. So I remind him of that every time I see him.
Senator Caballero started out as the council member and then mayor of Salinas, which is another agricultural based town.
Right.
Very important. So I think she'll see the importance of ag to
Absolutely.
Selma and the importance of water.
And we're staying close with them, and we're watching the election. We don't play politics. We can't, and we're staying close with her. We have projects with her at this point. We've briefed her office on Selma, and knowing that this will now be part of her district if she wins. And so we just want to make sure that we're first in the door and have her here and, welcome her with open arms if she's the winner and whoever is the winner. Yeah. And I know you've done a great job, Mayor, working with Senator Hurtado as well. I mean, I know you guys are close and you've spoken and she lets us know. And so it's sad to see what redistricting does, but like I said, every 10 years, something changes.
I've known Senator Caballero for a long time
Have you?
too, so that's good.
Nice.
It's a
Good.
thing. It's a good
Okay.
thing. Sorry to see Hurtado go.
Yeah.
Anybody else from the community have anything they would like to ask Jason at this time? Okay. And then thank you for bringing Emily out. Welcome. Thank you for being boots on the ground.
That's right.
In the area, and appreciate all you're doing, Jason.
Thank you very much. And like I said, if you guys, any questions, any follow-ups, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
And with that, we'll move on to our next special presentation, which is a planning and development project update.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, Rob Terry, Deputy City Manager. Was going to go through our project update today. We actually have 30 projects that we will touch on. I joked with the city clerk earlier and told her that we'll spend only 15 or 20 minutes on each one. She didn't find that funny, so I want to make sure that you guys also understand.
No one's laughing, Rob.
She's still not laughing at it. But yes, we will move through these. You will notice, of course, that they bounce around on the map as we are discussing them. The intention here was to give you a brief overview of where these projects are. If there's any specific questions that you have or additional follow-up items, by all means, please let me know. I'll make sure that we get those back to you in a timely manner. Okay, so starting off here, we can see that one right there, right in the middle of the screen is the site that is currently being proposed for a Dutch Brothers. That is a remodel of the former Rally site. They'll be redesigning this one here. We have been working with Caltrans to deal with some right-of-way concerns and comments that they had back there. Have recently been able to really break that one free, and so I think that we're going to see some movement coming up here in late summer, as soon as the property owner and Dutch Brothers get all of their agreements and everything finalized. We're anticipating late summer is when we'll see some actual on-site activity taking place. Next, please. Okay, moving over, Western Dental, which was the former Pizza Hut location. That is completed now, actively under construction, and inspection activity is ongoing there as well. That we don't have any anticipated completion date from them just yet, but everything is moving along just well. Permits pulled, inspections taking place. For the Walmart expansion, working with our building division on this one, this has been interesting because there's been a lot of activity associated with Walmart, both interior adjustments that they've made and some small expansions they're looking to do on the store. This one in particular is actually specific to the area inside the store where they are increasing their footprint and allowance for the online grocery shopping, and then the in-store or the drive-by pickup where you can come in and let them know that you've checked in the app and they'll walk the groceries out to you that you have ordered online. Because of the amount of projects that they have going on right now, Walmart has actually put this one, I don't want to say on pause, but it's taking a little bit longer, of course, than they had anticipated. But they do have permits pulled right now and are moving toward completion of that item. They also did not have what they were saying was going to be their final deadline that they thought. They were hoping initially by the end of the 2021 calendar year. Clearly that did not happen now. So when we had asked them what they thought that their new date would be, they said, they're not sure yet, but they'd like to get it up as quick as possible. So, but that's all interior. So that's nothing that you would actually see on the outside of the building. Okay, Domino's Pizza. This site here is complete, totally in operation. So everything good to go here. A couple of these items that I will be touching on, I will be saying they are complete now. The reason why is because the last time these came before council, these were included. So I want to make sure that you guys are going to have that final update. And then in the next updates moving forward, anything that we had talked about that's completed and fully in operation will be removed. The Hilton Hampton Inn is currently under construction, as everybody can see as they're driving up and down the 99 there. So their anticipated opening date, they are shooting for right near the end of this calendar year, and everything is progressing along very well in that. So active construction and active inspections taking place daily. American Tire Depot, council recently took action on this to extend the development agreement allowance for the undergrounding item there. The feedback that we got from them is that they are hoping to be fully operational within the next 6 weeks. Valley View Estates Phase 3, which includes 87 single-family affordable homes. It is actively under construction right now. They are anticipating completion this summer of 2022. Amberwood Phase 1, that is being constructed by Lennar, approximately 270 homes there. Their application is complete. The annexation is complete. Right now, they're pending the submission of their infrastructure plans and, of course, funding to deal with the large amount of infrastructure that needs to be in place there. Actively working with them on the communication as they prepare those items. The Joseon Mixed Use Annexation Project requires a lot of work on this one here. Right now, we're going through CEQA review in process with Mr. Joseon, the property owner and applicant. He is just finalizing now the site plan there. Went through a couple iterations of things that he got back and forth with staff on. Can we do this? Does this work? And got all the feedback from us that he felt that he needed, and is now finalizing the site plan that he prefers to see there. And we anticipate that in spring of 2022, he will submit that finalized site plan, and we'll be able to complete the CEQA review and start moving toward public hearings and all of the items that go along with the annexation site plan review process and the appropriate entitlements that accompany that. Second Street Service Station. This item was actually at the last council meeting in regards to the sign. There is a site plan review that we have been going back and forth with for quite some time with the applicant there. We're pending the revisions that they have stated that they are planning on submitting in the very near future. I'm sure you've noticed that they have started to put up some fencing there on site to make sure that things are, that I believe, so that council can actively see that they are working toward a project. So we have been in communication with them and will continue to do so and hope to see that site plan here in the coming weeks, as they had said we would. The Nagra subdivision, 10 single-family lots. That subdivision improvement agreement, the restriction, deed restriction, and the final map was approved by council in the previous meeting. Now it's pending their final map filing with Fresno County. So we have all of the signatures, everything that has moved forward, everything notarized, and county here in the coming days to get that filing process official. McCall Avenue Apartments, we're actively working with the applicant and current property owner right now on review of the conditions. There has been discussions about the potential of that project being sold. And so we are working with all parties involved to make sure that they understand the conditions of approval, fee structure, and all the items that come along with the site plan and project that had been discussed in the past and approved there. 2407 Nebraska Avenue. This is 2 single-family residences with an accessory dwelling unit along with each one of those. They had building permits that were issued midway through 2021, and construction right now is actively underway. And they are getting regular inspections as well as they're moving forward. So smaller project, but we anticipate that we'll see a lot more of these with the accessory dwelling units coming along with them. Large push from the state to ensure that those items are going to be put in place and permitted. For the Van Horn Avenue truck stop here, this one is actively under construction as well. It's a small 3,000 square foot shell building, actively under construction. They anticipate their completion will be in fall. They're shooting even for late summer, but said realistically fall of 2022 before they have their certificate of occupancy for the new area. Legacy Youth Center recently had a CUP extension. It was granted through 2023. They do have some outstanding conditions about items on site, in particular things that need to address parking, ADA compliance. Wanted to point out that the applicant has submitted their revised budget, and that will be coming to council for their consideration because the budget would be requesting dollars from the city council. That is anticipated to be presented to the council next month. For the Superburger drive-in and expansion there, the owner is looking to do a drive-through associated with their current operation there. There's been some challenge in the encroachment permit process with Caltrans that we are working to assist them through. Of course, that is Caltrans right away. And so we're trying to help them ensure that they're going to have all the items that they need and that Caltrans is going to require to see, and then help them navigate through the process to have the appropriate conversations with staff and hopefully be able to receive approval type of improvements that they're looking to make on their.
That was something with the driveway, is that right?
That is
An
correct.
issue?
Yeah. A very common theme when it has to do with the Caltrans right array is the ingress egress, particularly on Highway 43.
And that's moving forward.
It is. The conversations, we're doing everything we can to help them get through that encroachment process. Yeah. For the V5 mini storage, they have recently resubmitted a parcel map and it's currently being reviewed by staff. It has been routed around to all of the internal and external agencies that we work with for various approval process. We anticipate that the Planning Commission will be able to take public action on that one in either May or June, depending on the call. And then for the Mountain View Service Station here located at 11010 East Mountain View, site improvement plans and a building permit application are required to move forward on this one. We've been working with the applicant for quite some time now to make sure they're going to address all of the items that need to be addressed within that application. They have a lot of different questions and things that they would like to do with their site. So everything right now is in their court. They do have all of the information needed to move forward. And hopefully we'll be able to see something from them soon, but we'll continue to answer all those questions that they have during the pre-application process and hopefully turn that into a full application. And then Selma Crossing, of course, is 288 acres of regional commercial proposed development. Right now, you have all of your entitlements in place. We're continually working with the property owner regarding potential users and trying to do everything we can to attract people, make sure that they know what Summer Crossing is and how it works and what a great place it's going to be, because we know it will be. It's just now the heavy lifting of getting things there. On the Vineyard Estates Phase 3, 42 single-family homes, the final map, and that subdivision improvement agreement is on tonight's council agenda for your consideration, and that is the final phase of that development there.
What's the status of that stoplight there, Rob, between Saginaw and Nebraska?
Yeah.
Is that funded?
I can go into, oh, that's on consent. So unless you guys elected to pull that one from consent, I can tell you that in the conditions of approval, that there were some certain triggers for conversations and certain thresholds, if met, that would be required to be placed. In the first two subdivision improvement agreements that they had, there was language that talked about the consistency with that condition and ensuring that was going to be addressed. The language that is in the draft subdivision improvement agreement for Phase 3 is consistent with what was found in Phases 1 and 2 improvement agreement. And there's one term in there that I think is extremely important for people to notice, and that is as you get to the very end of it, let me pull it up and make sure I'm going to get the wording exactly right for you guys here. Yeah, so Mayor, when it comes to the improvement there, it lays out all of the various criteria that would require that to be in place. And as I said, if the traffic numbers were to hit a certain threshold, and then it states that placement along with Phase 3 would be required as appropriate. And that language was used specifically because that's if the traffic studies that are required through each individual, that it now does meet that threshold, then it would be required. If it still does not meet that threshold, then the language that Caltrans had in previous studies had stated that they estimated a certain timeline. I believe the first one was 2035, and then the last one had stated that it looked like it was going to be 2040. So if you remain consistent with that, we wanted to just make sure that the language memorialized and was consistent with everything that had been approved before, and that it was very clear that if it did meet that metric, that type of improvement would be required. If it does not meet that metric.
And does a deposit get taken
I'm sorry, what was that?
ahead of time? Does a deposit get taken for those stoplights ahead of time from the developer?
Well, we have development impact fees and transportation fees that they would pay for those items for at least portions of that. If they meet the metric and their project alone pushes it to a certain point, then those type of improvements are required associated with their project.
But this one goes so far out and it's so contingent on
Correct.
traffic counts. It'd be tough to charge somebody based on that.
The short answer is that the fees would go toward their fair share of those future improvements required. Additional questions on that one before we move on? For the Gill annexation here, it was an incomplete application that had been received back in 2020. So staff had met multiple times with the applicant here in 2021 and made sure that they understood what those submittal requirements were. We've continued to have some conversations there. Up to this point, we have not received an official application, but I will say we have had conversations with not only that property owner, but other adjacent property owners that may be interested in doing a larger annexation area altogether if the timing of that is going to be right for everybody. But no official application at this time. McCall Estates, similar in regards to the last one that we talked about. This one is actually outside of not only city limits, but outside of the current sphere of influence as well. So we would have to have the MSR or the municipal service review updated with the county and then go through the sphere of expansion process before we could then be talking about any items here. So the property owner is aware of that. And at this point, they have not elected to move forward with any application associated with that. I think we'll likely see this one in a few. Then we have Thompson Avenue, Giannis Construction, Thompson and Blaine. They have not submitted a tentative parcel map at this time, or subdivision map, excuse me, but they are currently working on one. We think that we'll see one here in the next couple of weeks. They have stated, though, that the estimate that they believe is going to be right around 100, in between 140 and 145 single-family home lots is what they think that they'll have in their initial map.
Rob, is this the one where they're going to be providing the 10 acres for the city park?
Yep, that's our very next item there. Yeah, so we have the 10-acre park that's just south and east of the site. And preliminary conceptual designs are being worked on right now. So the city, between city funds and grant funding, would actually pay for the park, but the 10-acre land itself is being donated by the property owner, by Giannis Construction, who will be doing the development. Currently working on them on all of the logistics, and council will obviously be taking action on those items as appropriate.
The city received confirmation from the Department of Parks and Rec that it's okay to move that grant money from the Rockwell Park over to this new park location?
I believe that confirmation did come in, but I will defer to the city manager on that one because the conversations were.
Manager, I was just asking if the DPR has approved the allocation of the grant funds for the former Rockwell Pond towards this new park that Giannis Construction has donated the 10 acres for.
No, that approval has not been received yet as of this date.
Thank you.
That's exactly why I defer to the city manager. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, next. We have the northeast corner of Highland and Nebraska Avenue. I know that's a really long title, but they haven't named their project yet, so my apologies on that one. But this one consists of a multifamily and a future commercial project there. There's just under 17 acres total. They're looking at about close to 9.5 acres, which would be for multifamily residential, a 1-acre community park along Fig Avenue, just under 3 acres for future commercial along Highland Avenue, and just under 4 acres of future commercial along Nebraska Avenue. So at this point, everything has been submitted. Preliminary aspect, but we think that they're at the point now where they've gone through all their pre-application review and are ready to. Then we have Casa de Villa Apartments. It's a 40-unit multifamily apartment complex. There is also 3,000 square feet of commercial space that is adjacent to that project as well, but is included. Right now, we're finalizing our site plan review and the draft conditions of approval. We anticipate that that one will move forward as appropriate in May or potentially June as well. Have the Storeland expansion here. Right now, we are routing their minor site plan modification. We do, however, have grading improvement and building plans that have been reviewed and, at least in the first round, returned back to the applicant for their revisions and resubmittal. We anticipated, or we sent those out in March, so we anticipate that they will resubmit, if not in April, in early. Selma Grove is actually a revised site plan from the item that would have been seen before. So it's revised site plan and CEQA. The proposed project includes just over 63 acres, or just under 63 acres actually, with approximately 515,000 square feet of commercial and a 55,000 square foot movie theater. The revisions that they made to the site plan actually bring down the amount of square footage that they have on site. So right now, as I said, we're currently going through our reviews on that item. Why that jumped over there, because Raven is to the north, so Google has a mind of its own on this one. But the applicant is working right now on their vesting tentative subdivision map. That includes 250 single-family lots. The map submission is anticipated. There we go. Thank you, Raina. Okay, and then on to our last one. We have Golden State and Highlands change of zone. That is actually on tonight's agenda for action on. The property owner has indicated interest in placing a storage type of facility there in the future, although they have not submitted any official application for a project itself. At this time, the only application that they have submitted was to request a partial change of zone. A portion of that site, as you'll see in the item we're bringing forward, is what they're looking to. And with that, that's the 30 projects right now that we wanted to bring before and make sure that you had an update on. Any questions, concerns that you had with any of those that you'd like me to bring back clarification on?
Council have any questions for Deputy Manager Terry?
Not for those, but the one art on that building, the or city manager probably has more information. on that
Sure,
one.
and my information is limited as well, but they did pull permits for a grocery store, Safeco, I think it was going to be called, but they are moving slowly on that project. But as I understand it, I mean, we can follow up with a more updated status, but as I understand it, they are slowly working on improving the interior of that building.
I'll ensure that that one's added to the next update.
Rob, can I ask that you give us a spreadsheet on these projects, if you don't
Absolutely.
mind?
Yep.
I just like to make comments and notes and, make sure that it's being updated.
If it's okay with the council, I can follow up with that spreadsheet.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Will we be getting regular updates on this? Are we looking at periodizing this or at least?
Yes,
are.
yes. And with development projects, it's, you have to find a good balance because if you do monthly updates, for example, there's not a whole lot of progress that happens on these types of projects every month. But we are thinking about doing a quarterly update to the council.
Quarterly?
Mhm.
Thank you. Anyone from the community have any questions? We have anyone on Zoom or on the phone like to ask a question of Deputy City Manager Terry? All right, thank you very much for your presentation. And that concludes our special presentations tonight. And with that, we will move on to our consent calendar. All items listed under the consent calendar are considered routine. The complete consent calendar will be enacted by one motion by roll call vote. For purposes of discussion, any council member may have an item removed from the consent calendar and made part of the regular agenda. The council will then vote on the approval of the remainder of the consent calendar. Are there any items that council would like to have removed tonight?
I'd like to pull item C, Mayor.
I'd like to pull item 1A. Anyone else? Is there a motion to approve item B? Is there a second? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro, Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Okay, number 1, page 1 of the packet. This is consideration of resolutions approving requests for special event fee waivers for multiple upcoming events, all of them great events. The only question I have is items 2 and 3, the National Day of Prayer and the March for Jesus. They are both hosted by the same entity. And for some reason, the city, I thought, had a policy of only providing one fee waiver a year per organization.
Right, Mayor?
We can follow up with that. But if it's something that you would like to put off until we confirm in terms of policies, then we can certainly do that.
I think it's a policy because a lot of nonprofits were coming to the council, getting fee waiver after fee waiver. And I remember the city council had a meeting and said, well, we're only going to do one a year. If we could just clarify that. Again, these are two very worthy events. Been to both of them in my time. And it's nothing about the events. It's just, I'd like to clarify to make sure that we're following the policy on this.
Sure, Mayor. My only question would be, does that apply to the Chamber of Commerce events as well? Because I know they have multiple events that are sponsored and I think multiple are coming to the council for consideration. How would that affect that decision?
So you're saying since the council approved multiple events from the Chamber of Commerce, you're saying that would be that the council has already violated its
No.
policy of approving more than one fee waiver from the same nonprofit? Is that what
I'm not
hearing?
aware of the policy. I'm asking, would you like us to hold off on the Chamber of Commerce events as well until we confirm that policy?
I guess what I'm asking for tonight is just clarification of the existing policy. There may have been one fee waiver per entity, and there may be a break on the amount that's applied for in terms of when people can come to council. But I think in order to be consistent, probably be a good thing to get clarification, which it looks like the director is going to provide.
I think I agree with city manager, to clarify, but I think what your understanding was the city manager has the right to approve nonprofit events for $500 or less. Based on that policy, there was one per year. The city council has, my understanding, the way it was reading, you can still waive the same agency more than one, but it has to come before you. In other words, the city manager cannot waive the fee himself for those events 500 or less more than once, but the city council could consider.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand this. For an event that's $500
Or less.
or less, the city manager can approve it one time without consulting the city
Correct. One
council.
organization per year, with the intent that they're going to try to come back next year paying the fees because
And that's is this only for a
Nonprofit only.
nonprofit or is this for any
Nonprofit only.
entity that comes to the council?
nonprofit has to be a local based, Selma.
Okay. Does the nonprofit have to be in compliance with the state laws
Go through
to
the,
receive that?
yeah, we go through IRS and we check on the website to make sure they are.
You don't go through the IRS, you go through the Registry of Charitable Trusts, I hope, because that's where you find out if
There's
or
two-
an entity
yeah,
is in
there's two sites
compliance.
we look at, IRS.
Because
and then the
anybody
state.
complies, you can do it one time, correct? But you would go through the Registry of
Correct.
Charitable Trust. Not to put too fine a point on it. I get what you're saying, but I just recall that we had a meeting in the past because all these nonprofits were coming to the council asking for waivers. And I know the council wanted to make sure that it was a clear policy on what happened. So that every nonprofit wouldn't just keep coming to the council. So just so that I understand, any 500 or less gets approved one time by the city manager, any bona fide valid nonprofit, anything over 500 would come to the city council, but it could come multiple times. Is that correct?
Automatically, since it's $500.01, automatically comes before city council.
Got it. Thanks for the clarification. I appreciate that. Pastor Joe?
To help the council make its decision, what it is I'm in charge of both of them. And I put an Antioch church, but one of them, actually, the March for Jesus, is Selma Ministerial Alliance that is in charge of it. But since I'm the president of that, I put Selma Antioquia Ministry, but that's my mistake on that. But that's working together with Selma Ministerial Alliance, so I can change the wording on that, so we can go ahead. And then the Selma will sponsor the National Day of Prayer.
Yeah,
If that's okay with you guys.
I think the clarification was made and one is for 500 and one is, right? One is
Right.
for
The one.
5,000?
The National Day of Prayer doesn't go over 500.
One's 1,000.
One is 1,000.
225,
Okay.
and then the other one's 4,680.
So they both could come to the council per the policy because they're both over $500. Is that correct?
Correct. And there is no limit on how many of those can be approved
Okay.
by the council.
Well, in that case, I don't think you have to restate the sponsorship of that event. Thank you. So that was my item. I'm good with that. Does anybody else have any questions on that? We have anybody on the line or on Zoom? Okay. With that, we'll move on to the next item.
Item C, check registry, page 78, check number 79295, Department of Healthcare. And it says in the amount of 25,733.40. Says GMT QAF 2120.
Fire Chief Peterson can answer that question.
Okay.
Yes, that is our, I believe that was the second quarterly GEMT QAF payment. That has come before council before. I think the mayor asked about it the last time. It was up around $50,000. And it's the state program that we're required to pay a certain amount of money per Medicare type of call that we're responding to. And these, we have to do so on a quarterly basis. That's what that payment is. I believe it was second quarter.
Second quarter. But this is when it gets reimbursed, right? Back to the city?
We are working on that right now with our billing agency. Determine the best way and the most efficient way that we can try to get some of that funding back. It's not like IGT where it's an established program. It's something that's a little bit newer, just over the last few years, that came about through a private ambulance company that pushed to have this bill sent through that required all agencies that have ambulance transport services to pay into this program. We're working on ways right now to try to seek some reimbursement for that.
Other items, council member? I have 179271. It's the first one. AC Electric Company, repair damaged signal, Highland and Golden State, 2639. Do we have an update on the infrastructure of traffic signals in our city? How we're doing on that? Because it seems like these signals are going out with a greater frequency.
Yes, Mayor, we are currently analyzing upgrading our traffic signal controllers. When there's power surges, sometimes they go out and it's difficult to replace them and get compatibility with the software that's on the traffic signals. Our Public Works Director, Shane Farrell, has worked on them in the past, but one of the issues is that the single person that used to service our traffic signals is unfortunately deceased, and so we're having to find, and other cities in the area are having the same problem. We're having to find technically qualified people to be able to service those traffic signals and upgrade them. But it is something that we are going to look at as part of our overall infrastructure planning process.
Thank you. On page 79, the late fee for the CVTC, it's $283, but what's up with that? We were just late paying something and they reimbursed that? Sorry, it's item 79350. It has reimbursement. indicated.
Yeah, I can answer that, Deputy City Manager. That was a matter of the invoices going to the wrong staff member. And essentially the right person, accounts payable, never received those. We tried to dispute the charge with the company and they would not budge on that fee.
Okay, but it gets reimbursed anyway, is that correct?
No, that one is not a CBTC, a reimbursable. Well, I guess we can. Yeah, I think we can. It hasn't. Yeah, you're correct. I'm sorry.
And then finally, the 79358, the decals for the DUI trailer. Does that mean the DUI trailer is going to go back into action here after a couple of years off due to COVID?
So yeah, so a few years ago, the decals were actually stripped off the DUI trailer, and when we redesigned the decals, we took the trailer back to the engraving company in Tulare County. They told us that it was best that if we repaint the DUI trailer, just because the decals weren't going to look very good. So Nestor was able to get that painted out of his budget, and that's what those decals are. So and basically it's we're not calling it the DUI trailer, we're calling it the mobile command, but it's for the DUI trailer, aka DUI trailer, and it's to use for multiple operations, DUI, special events, and all that stuff.
Well, not just DUIs, but special events, but that means that they will be used for DUI checkpoints in the
Yes.
future.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that. Council members have any questions about the check register? Anybody in the community have any questions about the check register? Do we have anyone on Zoom or on the phone who would like to ask a question? Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve items A and C?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, with that, we're done with the consent calendar, and seeing that it's 7:10 and we still have 5 items left on the regular agenda, I'd like to ask for a 5-minute break. We will reconvene at 7:15. Get started again. We're going to get started again. We will start with item 2, which is a public hearing item tonight. It's consideration of city council action regarding planning commission recommendation on submittal number 2022-0002, a zone change amendment for APN 348-19001S and accompanying notice of exemption. Report, please.
Mayor Robinson and council. My name is Trevor Stearns. I'm the contract city planner here. And the item before you tonight is to consider the approval of the zone change amendment for APN 348-19001S and accompanying notice of exemption. On March 28th, the Selma Planning Commission held a duly noticed public hearing to consider that zone change amendment for the aforementioned property. Action was requested to bring the zone designation of the parcel into conformance with the current general plan land use designation. The proposed zone change will change approximately 21 acres of the total 23-acre site from M2 to CR. So that's the heavy industrial to the commercial, regional commercial. Following staff's report and opening of the public hearing for comment at the Planning Commission hearing, having received no comments in association with the 6-1 in favor of recommending to the City Council aforementioned item. Attached for Council's reference, as required by the Selma Municipal Code, Section 1121-4, is a copy of the Planning Commission staff report, resolution, and associated attachments for the recommended action. That concludes staff's presentation. Myself or Deputy City Manager would be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Trevor. Are there any questions for the city engineer at this time?
Trevor, I just want to say that was a good report. Thank you for the report as well. Self-explanatory. Thank you.
And with that, we will open up this public hearing item to the public. Does anyone here from the community have any input they would like to make at this time on this agenda item? Do we have anyone on Zoom or on the phone who would like to make a comment, pro or con? Okay, that will bring the item back to the community and see if anyone has anything they would like to input at this time. That we will close the public hearing item, refer the matter back to council, and ask for council input. I have a question. What is the timeline, Trevor, on the beginning of the construction for the next phase?
So it's hard to say the exact timeline because the only discussions we've had about actual development of the site has been purely conceptual. However, we're working with the applicant, and once this piece gets approved, then they can start more seriously going towards the development portion of that. What we'd be anticipating is something along a by right use. So that would be typically a site plan review approval, which would be staff level. So that would typically take, anywhere from 8 weeks, typically from beginning of submittal of the application to approval.
So all this does is just change the designation of the
Right, yeah.
land.
No development.
It's not
is-
any kind of construction or approval of a tentative map or anything like that.
That's correct, yeah. The staff will have time to review any development projects that will be a product of this zone change at this particular property. And also any accompanying sequel will have to be consistent with the state CEQA guidelines for that particular application.
Does it appear that the construction will be consistent with what's gone before in the previous 2 phases?
I'm not too familiar with the previous 2 phases, although this site in particular is slated for commercial development. That's what the applicant and staff has discussed previously. Yeah, just north and to the west. Yeah, it's kind of an odd shaped parcel, but yeah, it's just north. And there's that open space area where the railroad group is. Yeah.
That is correct, Councilmember. I think two important things that we want to notate with this one is first, the change of zone request is to bring it consistent with our general plan. And then the discussions that they have had up to this point, or at least the questions they've had, it's clear that they are interested, like would be a by right use, but something that would be storage related, which would and we are currently working right now with the property owner as part of those conversations about what type of items could happen there if zoning is consistent with the general. Have also indicated that they are interested in working with the city to have a shared use agreement allow for parking and to continue that,
Okay.
the use of that site there, which of course, if they develop their site, that would then be an improved parking surface. They're still interested in working in partnership with the city, allow for that continued use for the council obviously would have an agreement brought back for your consideration at the appropriate.
But this is just the start. This is the rezoning start, and then
That's
the
correct.
actual
This is
entitlements and
really
all that
just
gets.
getting the land uses, the underlying land uses
Got it.
and what is and isn't permitted in the land, consistent between the general plan and the zoning.
Thank you. There a motion on this item?
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
For Trujillo, Mayor Pro Tem Cho.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, with that, we'll move on to our regular agenda items. After that public hearing, our first regular business item is consideration of an ordinance approving a military equipment use policy pursuant to Assembly Bill 481. Acting Chief Garza.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Renee Garza, acting Chief of the Selma Police Department. I want to give a brief presentation in regards to AB 481, which is titled Military Equipment. And basically, it's AB 481 is required for military equipment inventory. So I'm just going to start with our agenda. I'm going to try to be quick. Oh, we're not ready for those, but it's fine, Mr. City Manager.
We're just
Apologize,
passing
Chief
them down.
Garza. I started passing them out too early.
That just tells me he wants me to hurry up. I got it.
Oh, that's okay.
So we're going to
Put it
talk
back.
about why Assembly Bill AB 481, how AB 481 defines military equipment, why equipment is needed, how equipment is funded, acquired, and used. And we're going to go over Selma PD's equipment inventory that we currently have in our stock. And obviously at the end, we'll have questions and answers. In your council package, you should have received the Selma Policy 705.1, which is the military equipment inventory policy draft. You also should have received the Selma PD's current military equipment inventory list that we currently have in stock. And this includes a description, the costs, and the capabilities, and et cetera. And also in that package, lastly, it's the military equipment city ordinance draft. So why AB 481? Back in September 30th, 2021, Governor Newsom signed AB 481. The reason why it was signed, it was by assembly person up in Sacramento that authored this bill. And he wanted to make sure that police departments in California, so it can increase transparency, accountability, oversight for acquisition and use of the equipment. This bill would provide safeguard to protect public's welfare, safety, civil rights, and liberties. This bill requires an annual report to summarize the following: equipment usage, document internal audits, summarize community feedback, and create public forum for input and engagement. AB 481 requires approval and annual reporting, just as I mentioned. AB 481 requires approval for continued use of items purchased prior to January 1st, 2022. It also requires an annual report, which we already discussed. And first annual report is actually due next year, May 2023. The annual report must include how the equipment is used, the maintenance and the cost of the equipment, the internal audits, and community feedback on the police department. Why do we need this equipment? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Safety of the community and police officers, peaceful resolution for all individuals involved, and provides time and distance. One of the things that I want you to just keep in mind as a police officer, we come to work, we have all these tools on our belt. We carry a baton, we carry an OC, canister, we carry a taser, and we also have other tools, what we refer to in our toolbox that we use, we refer to as force options that we can use in our duties. Unfortunately, the last resort is your lethal force, which is going to be your firearm. And that's why we have these other tools because it's either you go hands-on or you go straight to your unfortunately lethal force. And that's why we have all these tools. Next. Funding of the equipment, the equipment that we currently have, it has been acquired through the general fund, asset forfeiture funding, which is law enforcement only for spending for training and only equipment. And we've acquired equipment through local and state and federal grants, and also the Department of Defense, the 1033 program. Basically, that 1033 program is actually military equipment that we can acquire from the government. For example, a few years ago, we acquired ballistic helmets that the Department of Defense basically gave to the police department. And we're required to inventory that already with this program. And there's other equipment that we can obtain from this program. It's a really great program. It's a lot of agencies who have this program, but it's strictly monitored by the government, and it's audited as well. So per AB 481, this is the military equipment. If your agency currently has any of this equipment that's listed here, you are required to put this in your policy. I'll go over this briefly, and I'll go ahead and just start the bullet points that you see highlighted in yellow is what the Selma Police Department currently has in their stock. Unmanned, remotely piloted, powered aerial or ground vehicles, also known as drones. We don't use the word drones in our policy. We refer to them as UAVs, which stands for unmanned aerial vehicles. Also in the bill, mine-resistant ambush protected vehicles or armored personnel carriers. Those are what SWAT teams use. They're what they refer to as Bearcats. We don't have any of those. High mobility, multi-purpose wheel vehicles, Humvees, what you see in the military. There are some police agencies who have Humvees, and they've actually acquired them from the 1033 program. We don't have any of those, and we don't have any intention of purchasing or of acquiring a Humvee. Tracked armored vehicles that provide ballistic protection to their occupants, also what they refer to as a Bearcat. We do have a command and control vehicles that are either built or modified to facilitate the operational control and direction of public safety units, which is the mobile command trailer that we have, which is also known as a DUI trailer. So we do have one of those in stock. Weaponized aircraft, vessels, we don't have any of those. Battering rams, slugs, and breaching apparatuses that are explosive in nature, we don't have any of those. Our local SWAT teams have those, so they have that equipment that they can use, but we don't have any of that equipment. And firearms of 50 caliber or greater, which we do not have. Next slide, please. And equipment continued, ammunition of 50 caliber or greater. We don't have any of that type of ammunition. Specialized firearms and ammunition of less than 50 caliber. We don't have any firearm or firearm accessory that is designed to launch explosive projectiles. We don't have any of that type of equipment. And the noise flash diversioning devices, those are what we refer to as flashbangs. We don't have any of those. Next one, the bullet point, taser, shockwave, anything microwave weapons, water cannons, and long-range acoustic devices. So the taser is going to be the yellow stun guns that the officers carry on their belts, and it's the one that I currently have on my belt right now. And the next one, kinetic energy weapons and munitions. We do have two weapons that do fire with kinetic energy, and I'll go over those here shortly. And then finally, any other equipment as determined by a governing body or a state agency to require additional oversight. So Selma PD equipment inventory, I went over earlier what we have. We actually have 2 40mm foam tip launchers, 5 less than lethal shotguns. Once again, these are less lethal force options. Just keep that in mind. We have 3 tasers, X26 and 40 taser X26P. It's just different models, different brands. They work the same. And we have a total of 4 drones. I'm sorry, we have 3 drones. One of the 3 drones is a mini drone that is used just for indoor purposes for a building search, just to keep our officers safe. If we have an individual, a barricaded subject, and we don't want to send an officer in, we can deploy the drone to go in there and basically be our eyes. Just extra protection for the officers. And then we do have one of our other drones is for day use only, and it does record. And then we also have another drone that we can use during the nighttime, and it has infrared and all that other stuff. And we're able to actually find individuals hiding from us or individuals we need to rescue. So one of the first less than lethal weapons that I want to talk about is the 40mm foam tip launcher. I will tell you, my 22 years here at Selma PD, I can count on one hand that we've used this equipment, but it's just one of those things, you have your toolbox at home. You just never want to throw away that tool because you may need it one day. And that's what this tool does. And if you pass around it looks like a racquetball on top. The one in your right hand. Looks like the racquetball. Yeah. That is what basically launches out of the 40mm. And it's basically just best way to describe it is it's almost getting hit by a racquetball is what it is. And the whole purpose of that is to incapacitate a individual to demobilize them. Next one we have is the less than lethal shotgun. We refer this as a beanbag munition. And if you pass around the Ziploc bag, and then you pass around the munition that looks like the shotgun shell, it's green. There should be another one there. Yeah. So that is what the less lethal shotgun deploys, the beanbag, and they come in. It looks similar to a shotgun shell, and this is basically what it is. It's a shotgun. If you notice, this shotgun is orange, so we can differentiate what's lethal and what's less lethal. Next slide, please. Taser, we already talked about the taser. This tool is used often, unfortunately, but it's one of those tools that it reduces injury, it can also reduces death. And basically it demobilizes an individual for about 5 seconds. Slide, please. This is just one of the UAVs that we have. This is the indoor drone that we have, or the indoor UAV. Next one. This is our Phantom 4. This is the UAV that we use during the daylight hours. And then this is our Mavic Enterprise. This is the UAV that we use in the evening. And then this is our multi-purpose utility mobile trailer that we were just discussing, and those are the brand new decals that they are placing on the DUI trailer. So community engagement activities on March 15th, 2022. There was a meeting notice posted on the City Selma PD website. It included the full text of AB 481. AB 481 defined current lists of Selma PD's current military equipment. Our inventory list was placed on the website as well. It gave a brief overview of the Selma PD summary. Selma PD draft policy 705 is on there as well. And today, April 18th, we're having our first reading, and then May 2nd would be our second reading and for consideration for adoption. How does this affect Selma PD? With city council approval of lexical Policy 705, Selma PD will continue to have access to each of the resources currently available. Policies and procedures will remain in effect. Staff will be required to implement a tracking system for equipment use in preparation for the AB 481 annual report. We already do this. We track our equipment already. We do a very good job of tracking every piece of equipment that the Selma Police Department purchases. And every time that one of these tools is deployed or used out in the field, we are required per our policy to complete what we refer to as a use of force report. And it's reviewed by a supervisor, and it's also reviewed by the commander who oversees that division. So without city council approval of Lexipol policy 705, the department will have to cease the use of equipment designated by 481 as this equipment. The department will be required to redesign our policies, procedures, and operations for critical incidents. Response, this includes our ability to provide and receive mutual aid. So if another agency, like a SWAT team, we use Fresno PD SWAT, Fresno Sheriff's Department SWAT, and Clovis Police Department SWAT. If this policy doesn't get approved, or this city ordinance doesn't get approved, we won't be able to use mutual aid. So the equipment that they have, when we call them for assistance, they will not be able to deploy their resources. And as you know, we do not have a SWAT team here in the city of Selma just because of how small we are. And also lastly, public safety will be negatively impacted. Officers will have less force options, like what we refer to. And thank you for your time. Is there any questions? I know this is.
Council have any questions for our acting chief Garza?
I'm sorry, one more time here.
Any council
I'm sorry.
questions?
I'd have a question. Let me just ask you, what qualifies a SWAT team? You're saying our city's too small. So what would qualify a city to have a SWAT team?
Just to clarify, to call out a SWAT team or to have our own SWAT team?
You have your own SWAT team.
So because of, so we have 38 sworn officers, and it takes a lot of training and it takes a lot of personnel, meaning you probably need at least a dozen officers just to have an effective team. And if you kind of think about it, we have about 24 just patrol officers. So that would cut your patrol staff in half. Obviously you can use detectives and other individuals to be on that SWAT team, but there's also a lot of liability, and you would also need a lot of equipment. You'd probably need a armored vehicle. You'd probably need some additional firearms that are used by the SWAT team. And the firearms that we acquire or that we have is an AR-15 and our 40 caliber Glocks.
So it doesn't go by population?
No, it doesn't go by population. I mean, any city can have their SWAT team. I just don't think at this time it's feasible, and it's never been feasible. But yeah, most small agencies do not have a SWAT team now. I know the Lemoore Police Department is a part of the regional SWAT task force, and that's where I believe other agencies within that county kind of collaborates together. But we kind of just rely on Clovis PD, Fresno Sheriff's Department. They train all the time, which is good.
Do they have in terms to follow up on Councilmember Guerra's point, what's the difference between a SWAT team and a gang enforcement unit?
So a SWAT team handles what we refer to as high priority calls, like barricaded subjects, hostage situations, or where an individual is heavily armed. And the difference between a gang unit is gang unit just goes out and does enforcement. They're out enforcement. It's almost like equivalent to a patrol officer.
I saw where Fresno is getting back to gang injunctions, potentially enjoining gang members from associating with each other, which was found by the courts to be unconstitutional a few years back, and that didn't work out so well. So is that coming back? Are you hearing anything about more creative measures that, like you say, small law enforcement agencies are able to employ to combat the gang problem?
So as far as injunctions, this is the first time that I've heard of it. I've ever heard of an injunction in a while, but that's something I can look into. As far as gangs, the way they're addressing it is just heavy enforcement in the field. We depend a lot on our patrol officers to do gang enforcement. I mean, patrol officer is, I mean, you're doing it all. You're out there tackling narcotics. You're out there tackling gang activity. You're doing a lot, and you're handling your calls for service.
As you had mentioned before, you became acting chief, that it was up to someone with a chief designation to look into reformatting a gang enforcement unit. Is that something that's going to be looked at in the future?
For that to city.
I can answer that, Mayor Robertson. I know in the past that was something that was brought up as a council priority and goal. From my conversations with Acting Chief Garza and other members of the police department, that is something that the Gang Enforcement Task Force has evolved over time to where it becomes more of a sort of surveillance type of operation. And so we're looking at options to bring to council with the upcoming budget proposal that would address both the gang sort of aspect of it with some additional issues that the council has expressed as priorities.
Council, have any questions?
Question. So is it something that like statistically you would need to see if we, because I know gangs are everywhere, you know, so statistically, would it be feasible, or I don't even know if I'm using the right terms, but I'm sure that we're looking at what are our statistics, you know, like Councilmember Guerra was talking about a SWAT team. You know, it may not be the population, but if we're having a high amount of people that are barricading or we're asking for assistance from other areas, then that's where we would look to see, okay, well, is it feasible for us just to take on our own SWAT team? You know, same thing with the gangs, you know, is it something that's feasible that, I mean, it's always good to have that knowledge. It's always good to have that training in case you need it. However, I think it's more of a statistical review, right? So you're looking at, okay, what are our numbers? Is the amount of money that we're gonna be spending on getting this additional team that's just specific to gang or just specific to SWAT, is it feasible for us to do that? Or can we still partner up with our neighboring communities to, you know, do what we have to do? Because I'm sure the gangs are not just here, you know, or the gang members are not just here. I'm sure that there's affiliation with the surrounding areas and even further, you know, it may even go all the way down south and all the way up north. So is that something that is safe to say that those are also things that you look at, like statistically, what are our numbers, and is it feasible to get those SWAT teams, get those, you know, gang task force?
Yeah, absolutely. But you have to take a lot of things into consideration as well. Like the SWAT, it's very, very rare when I can tell you the last time we called out the SWAT team was probably about 2 years ago when we had several high-risk search warrants that needed to be served in Selma. But that was a very structured and organized operation. So, you know, it's not very often that we need them, but they're just a phone call away, and which is great to have, because you just never know, you know, because situations escalate from 0 to 100 very rapidly in the law enforcement world. And as far as the gang, yeah, I mean, you can never go wrong with having anyone being a part of a gang task force or having your own gang task force in the city of Selma, because gangs, you're right, they float around, and gangs are just always evolving. And you know, when I started 22 years ago, I'll be quite honest with you, I could recognize a gang member. It's very difficult now to recognize a gang member. They just dress differently. The patterns are different. But is there gangs out there? Absolutely. They are, unfortunately.
Any input from the community on this topic? Anybody on, we have a member of the community who'd like to say something.
I'm gonna talk good, well,
Let's
Jim
address
Avalos,
the council.
1701,
Mr. Avalos,
okay.
please.
1701.
Thank you for that.
Space. I've been on the ride along with these gentlemen.
Can you
here.
address the council, sir? Look at us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you and see you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
No, I've
Avalos.
been on the ride along with these officers of Selma, and he's right. On the SWAT team, how many times you use it, and it is a costly training, no doubt about it. For the city of Selma right now, he's right. It's not feasible at this moment. Maybe in time, whatever. I was going to ask him about are you guys using the ARs?
Look at us, sir.
ARs?
You address the council. and
Oh, I'm
then-
sorry. Is he using
Thank
the
you.
ARs?
Look at us and we'll address that.
Is he using the ARs weapon?
We'd have to ask, we can ask the city manager to direct that question to the bureaucracy of the
ARs?
council. Could you please address that question to the police chief, city manager?
I thought back then they're supposed to get ARs.
We can follow up with you on that.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. And also, the issue is their bulletproof vest. Are we using the new technology
Address the council,
that's
sir.
coming about on the new
Just
technology as
address the
far as
chair.
protection on the officer? And all the officers in the city of Selma are trained by the tasers?
That's a question for our city manager to direct to the police chief.
Sure. Acting Chief Garza, if you have a response to that, feel free.
So the answer is yes. Any of the tools that we talked about today, you are required to go through a training and to be certified. You actually have to deploy the device. So the answer is yes.
That tool is very unique. When I first ride along, I seen that thing work first time. At the time, there's a lot of controversy. Oh, it might have a guy might have a heart attack and all this. But once I seen that tool work against what we call a felon that was barely get out of jail, and he's big as a door. Once I seen that work, my God, that's the way to go, because he is right. It saves on the injuries, both sides, liability on both sides. It's a very smart tool to use. And all I got to say is this approval of this policy is, you're right. You need these tools to make the city more safer for the citizens, because public safety is very important, and so is a fire. They're both entities in our community that you both need them very, very important, because they're good tools that bring our community, make it stronger, our schools better, our community better, and everything better in our community. So you need to support these issues here as far as public safety. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Anyone else have any input on this topic at this time? Have anybody on Zoom on the phone? Okay.
Robert Cervantes. In the past couple of years, crime has spiked. I mean, really high now. Governors and state. Everything have you seen on every day, everywhere. I think we should provide them with all the tools they need, because that crime will be coming to Selma and to other cities, and we need to be prepared for that. Otherwise, we won't be able to handle that. I think we should prepare the police with all the tools, the equipment they need, firearm and everything, can make their job a lot easier. Right now, trying to hire police, they don't want to, there's a lot of people out there that don't want to be police no more, because what's going on right now. So I think these men are very brave, policemen, fire department, all that. I take my hat off for them. So I think we need to support them, get behind them, support them all the way. Whatever they need, we should help them out, make their job a lot easier. Because it's a hard job for them being out there. Because once you get out there, you don't know if you're coming back to your family again. You need to be behind them 110%. I think that it shouldn't be a problem passing that 705 and to get what they need and whatever they might need in the future.
For your input. Do we have any other input from the community at this time? Still no one on Zoom or the phone who would like to say anything? Okay. That will bring it back to council. Does council have any parting remarks before we take a vote on this? I have a parting remark. I think that any death that we have is more than a statistic in our city. Any murders or any killings that are gang related or not are too many. One is too many, two is too many. And so I think anything we can do to make the police officers' life safer, and that will make our community safer, I think is very worthwhile. And I appreciate your coming to council tonight with this very important topic, because I look at public safety as more than a statistic, but as something essential to the lifeblood and the survival of our community. So thank you for that. Is there a motion on this item?
The motion.
Is there a second?
So,
Call the roll,
so
please.
for clarification, so we have an accurate record for this item, is it a motion to introduce the ordinance and waive the first reading?
Yes.
Okay, that was a yes. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Member Trujillo, Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Item 4, consider purchase of 3 command vehicles for the fire department and authorize city manager or his designee to execute all necessary documents. Chief Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Our command vehicles are utilized by myself and our 2 division chiefs responding to various types of incidents. And we carry, in the back, we carry just about everything we might need for managing an incident, command boards, things like that. We also have to carry our PPE, the same type of PPE that our firefighters carry. And with advancements in technology, there are numerous other things that we're starting to utilize to help us more efficiently manage a fire, including drone usage within the fire service nowadays. And Raina, could you bring up the first picture of my vehicle? You've all seen the vehicle that I drive around. We have 2 of them. There's a picture of it on top there. You can see the back end of it. That's the only storage area that we have for equipment. It's kind of piled up there. It's within the cab. It's not secured. The other aspect of it is after a fire, that gets piled in there. So as I drive around until I have the opportunity to get to the fire station to wash it, we're being exposed to those same carcinogens that the firefighters are. I've also tried to carry a SCBA pack, a breathing pack in the back, but unfortunately there's no place to put it. I carried it around for a few months and it was just laying on the floorboard in the back seat. Not very safe. I ended up taking it out pretty quickly when I realized it didn't stay secured in there. What we are proposing, and you could move on to the next picture, please, is a truck type vehicle such as this. These are used by Fresno County Fire. Most chief officers are going to these types of vehicles. It isolates the cab from the back end, so you can place your dirty turnouts in there and not have to worry about carcinogens, things like that. There's also much more room for securing your equipment. One more picture, Raina, please. So you can see how much more room is in the back end, much more organized storage for any type of equipment that we might need. They're making small power saws now that chief officers are carrying to gain access into secured areas to better be able to size up a fire, backyards, stuff like that. So our proposal is to purchase 3 of these units, 1 for myself and 2 for the other 2 division chiefs. We would be utilizing strike team funds like we have in the past, so there would be no general fund impact. The balance that our strike team funds will not cover will come from the ambulance fund. And all 3 of us work across both fire and EMS divisions, so it's appropriate to utilize the ambulance fund for this purchase. And the total cost for each one, we're budgeting approximately up to $75,000 for each one. That'll cover the purchase of the pickup outfitting with lights, radios, and the proper storage areas in the back seat. The two current vehicles that we use still have relatively low miles. They have about 40,000 miles on them. They will be transferred over to the police department, and the police department will be able to take them and utilize for their purposes. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Council have any questions for Chief Peterson? Anybody from the community have any questions for Chief Peterson and these three vehicles? Bringing the matter back to council. We have community input.
I think we should give them what they're asking. Better be safe now than makes a good point, and 5,000 for each one is nothing, and utilize 100%. No brainer. We should pass them, give them their.
Thank you.
Mentioned about the, what is it? I guess the chemical, what would you call it?
The carcinogens?
Yes.
Those are the items that toxic gases that are coming off these fires these days are known to carry carcinogens in them, and they've known to latch on to our turnout gear. That's why we do a lot of on-scene decontamination, wipes, things like that. But you can't get that stuff off of your turnouts until you're able to get them back, get them washed, unfortunately.
Does that stay in the vehicles?
It can. They have done tests where using fluorescent powders to see where a firefighter, when he comes off of a fire, and they have this fluorescent powder on it to see exactly where these firefighters take this powder with them. And the powder simulating what the toxic smoke would be, these carcinogens. And they take them to their vehicles. They've been known to take them home if they don't properly decontaminate and shower and things like that.
My concern is you're going to give these vehicles to the police department. And who's going to use them?
My understanding, Councilmember Guerra, is that they would be used for patrol operations.
But wouldn't this carcinogens stay in the vehicle? Or are they going to be steamed out? You know,
But
I'm just saying the
yes.
concern of the next individual driving the vehicle, or if they're going to use it to put someone in the vehicle, what about those individuals?
We actually do clean the vehicles out on a regular basis. Every time I go to the fire station, firefighters are out there washing it, cleaning the inside of it. The deal with these things is with these carcinogens is eliminating the temporary exposures, the multiple temporary exposures, not necessarily the long term. The long term with cleaning and decontamination. That's why we can get it all off of us, is with cleaning and decontamination. We do the same thing once we get back to the station, turnouts, and our vehicles.
Council members have any other items? I would definitely just reiterate what we've heard tonight, that really important for fire. This is a win-win, right? It's a win for fire and it's a win for PD. I think it's really important that our personnel have these items. It's great to see that with the fire department. There are people out there who've tried to pressure me to get their, kids into the fire department, which I've resisted. And I don't think there's any need for that pressure. The fire department is a great department to be in. And I would, be enthusiastically a referral source for the fire department as well as the PD. And this just solidifies the commitment to safety that our fire department has. And I really appreciate that. Is there a motion on this
Make a
item?
motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro, Councilmember Trujillo, Mayor Robertson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Peterson. Item 5, consider authorizing the city manager to enter into agreements with Gateway Engineering for engineering services related to various grant-funded projects. Do we have a report tonight?
Yes, Mayor, I'll be presenting this item to the council. As you might know, Gateway Engineering used to be the city engineer, and their contract was terminated with the city in mid 2021. The previous administration had agreed to allow Gateway Engineering to continue to work on any grant-funded projects that Gateway Engineering had assisted in acquiring funding for. And this item before you is just finalizing those contracts and seeking approval from the council for those grant-funded projects so that Gateway can continue to work on them and close them out. There's a few. So there's a master agreement that staff and Gateway are proposing that covers smaller projects and a couple of that have that just need to be closed out. Like, for example, the Huntsman Avenue widening project and the AB 74 storm drain project. There's the Community Development Block Grant 2019-2020 sidewalk connectivity project, and that just requires inspections and construction management from Gateway Engineering. There are two project-specific sub-agreements that staff is requesting approval from the council for, and one of those is the CDBG Downtown ADA Improvement Project. That includes both the development of the engineering plans as well as the construction management and staking for the project. And then the other project is the CMAQ grant that will pay for the Dinuba Avenue, McCall Avenue signalization project. I know staff or council has had questions about that project in the past. And once this contract is approved, if it is council's desire to approve this contract, that work can begin on the traffic signal at Dinuba and McCall. At this time, we are recommending approval of all three agreements with Gateway Engineering. Happy to answer any questions.
We'll bring the matter back to council. Do council members have questions at this time for the city manager?
I have just a quick question. Wasn't this already approved?
Which project specifically, or all of them?
These projects that they were, from my understanding, I thought Gateway, like you said, had inquired these due to the grant. So we were just going to allow them to finish these projects. So
Sure. So they were originally working on so the projects themselves were approved by council. Gateway, when they were the city engineer, were going to work on those projects under their city engineering contract with the city. Since that contract was terminated, now we have to enter into individual contracts with Gateway because they're no longer the city engineer. So it just requires specific agreements for these projects.
Do we have members of Gateway Engineering here tonight to answer any questions?
Mr. Dan Bond, the co-owner of Gateway Engineering, had an emergency this evening, but he was planning on being here tonight.
Do we need to continue this item until we can have a member of Gateway Engineering, or is that necessary?
I don't believe that's necessary, sir.
Do we have any items from the community that you'd like to bring up about Gateway Engineering or any of these projects?
Jim Avalow's 1701 Dinuba. I know it's Gateway's coming back to finish the projects that they had laid out in the past from the previous council. Yeah, it's a good relationship because they fixed the Rose, McCall behind the high school, and also they worked on the Golden State project as well. So it's on the table too. So I think Gateway has done a good job in the city of Selma. Has not deviated from their projects. Cannot say anything bad about Gateway. You know, good understanding with Gateway, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Avalos. If anyone else who would like to have any input on these 6 jobs, Gateway to finish up, bringing them at, do we have anybody on Zoom or on the phone would like to say anything? Bringing the matter back to council. I would ask about number 6, the CMAQ grant program, congestion mitigation and air quality grant program. It looks like that was green lighted by the city manager, Teresa Gallivan, in 2019, according to the notes, and we're in 2022. I know COG has said in an email that the burden or the thrust in this is on the part of the city of Selma. So will this, I'm looking at this, is this a reason that the stoplight at Dinuba and McCall has been delayed because of the engineering issue on this? Or has there been a delay?
There has, we have not had Gateway under contract to complete the project. So to answer your question directly, yes, that's correct.
And with this approval tonight, if there is approval, this will free up that and this will get that process moving again for that stoplight at Dinuba and McCall. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you for that. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion, but first I'd like to say a comment. Back in 2019, when we did the fiscal budget, our previous city manager signed a contract with Gateway Engineering. Two months later, she terminated the contract. This project has been here, been bringing it up for the last 2.5 years. I think this more explains the fact that we need more accountability in our staff. We need to know what's going on. This project in general was approved a long time ago and we've been asking for it. So I make the motion. I really love to see this project mature. Thank you.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes. Yes.
Robertson,
Yes. Item 6 of tonight's regular agenda, I will get there, is banners and flags on public rights of way and streetlight poles. Report, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As you might recall, at the March 21st City Council meeting, there was a discussion about flags on city flag poles, and then that turned into a discussion about banners and flags on streetlights. And staff was given direction to develop a policy regarding the placement of banners and flags on streetlights. After we further reviewed the Selma Municipal Code, staff found that the requested policy currently exists within the municipal code. And I can go on to continue describing that policy. Essentially, the revisions that we are proposing to the existing policy are more for clarity and to accommodate the requests of the council from that March 21st meeting, specifically revising the meaning of signs to include flags, because the word flags is already within that policy. It's just not used consistently. And then, as was requested by Mayor Robertson, any appeals for denial by staff would go to the city council with this revision rather than the planning commission, because currently the code requires any appeals to be heard by the planning commission. And so I'd like to point out in the staff report, the definition of sign under Title 11, Chapter 1 includes, but is not limited to, banners, pennants, streamers, unusual paint, color, non-structural displays, architectural projections, etc. We are proposing the addition of the word flags to that definition. We are, so one of the things that came out of the discussion on March 21st was that we should review any applications for flags or banners to make sure that they're not obscene. There is a provision that restricts obscene material. That would be section 1128-5, prohibited signs that display a message, graphic presentation, or other image that is obscene as defined by section 311 of the California Penal Code. The main thing about this existing policy is that it prohibits any sign or banner or flag or pennant that is not specifically the city's events or the Chamber of Commerce events. It prohibits them from being attached to any streetlight poles or on any public right-of-way currently. So if we received an application right now to put up any banners on streetlight poles or any utility pole really that's in the public right of way, staff would have to deny it. And then it could go, or staff could actually choose to refer it to the Planning Commission. And the Planning Commission would hear both non-commercial and commercial signs as the code is currently written. It does say, the policy does say that temporary non-commercial signs, including but not limited to religious, charitable, civic, homeowner association, educational, cultural, or political signs are allowed, provided that they are not attached to any public property. So right now, city staff would have to deny anything that falls within those categories or refer them to the Planning Commission. So in general, and I would point also to 11-28-5 in the staff report, section A, pennants, banners, and flags, except as specifically permitted by this chapter, are expressly prohibited. So that really sums up the existing policy. We are proposing a change that would allow for city staff, the community development director, or someone in a similar role to refer non-commercial signs to the city council for approval, conditional approval, denial, or appeal. Non-commercial signs would continue to go to the Planning Commission for review if the community development director decides to refer it to the Planning Commission for appeal. That's really all we have. I would like to note that if council chooses to approve these recommended changes, we would come back for a public hearing on May 2nd. And if it's adopted at that point, then it would take 30 days for these revisions to become effective. And so as of June 2nd, new applications for these signs and flags could be accepted and referred to the city council for approval or denial as the council desires. So that is what staff is proposing regarding the flags and banner policy at this time. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Does any council member have any questions at this time before we hear from the members of the community about this topic? That will refer the matter out to the community and ask for public input. Please address staff. Please address the council members.
Hearing,
Thank you.
I'm hearing certain things are prohibited completely. One of the biggest issues was the pride flags. And it's my understanding, what I'm understanding is they're not allowed, period. Is that correct?
City manager, would you like to answer the question that the member of the public has just asked?
Sure. Under the existing policy, that's correct. A pride flag, for example, would not be approved, but it could be referred to the Planning Commission.
So as the planning, if something like that came to the Planning Commission and then I'd say me because I'm on the Planning Commission, but the Planning Commission could approve it and then it would be allowed, or how would that work?
Yeah, if it went to the Planning Commission.
Manager, if you'd like to answer, a member of the public, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The Planning Commission could approve it, but if it's denied, the applicant could further appeal it to the city council at that point.
So we're really not, so it's not being denied. You're gonna have to jump through 3 hoops instead of just 1 to get something approved.
That would be the existing policy right now. What staff is proposing is that we cut out the Planning Commission for, non-commercial flags or signs and go straight to the city council.
So in effect, the council would have to approve, just like they're doing now, approve every single thing, so we could still have a war on our hands. We'd still have people arguing for and against something that they truly believe in or don't believe in.
Yeah, just to answer your question from my perspective. Yes, that's what we were given. We're given the same thing that we currently have because the city has a policy. The city just has not been following the policy. We had a previous discussion about the fee waivers, whether we were following that policy. Here's another policy issue. So the city has a policy, but the city's not been following the policy because if you read the, and I'm taking your time, please
No,
continue.
That's okay. Basically, the wording in the ordinance changes a little bit, but the bottom line is there's no change in what's been happening. Whoever wants a flag comes to the city council. The city council argues amongst themselves and says yes or no. End of story. And then the flags go up.
Well, if I could, Mayor, may I answer that question?
Thank you. Thank you for responding.
So the proposed changes would allow staff to review the applications and approve them or deny them if they are consistent with the policy. If it's denied, it's not a given that the application would then be appealed to the city council, but the staff could actually refer it just directly to the city council. But when the council reviews it, my understanding is that the council still has to look at the existing policy and take that into consideration when approving or denying
So
those.
you can't make a different determination. Again, say it's a Sikh flag that wants to go up and it's not a nonprofit organization from the city of Selma and it falls under the category that would be denied. They come to the city council, you can't approve it just because you guys want to be nice, because you'd still have to follow the ordinance then. So that flag would still be denied anyway, even if they came to city council.
Well, there's always been an ordinance, just whether or not the city council had followed it or not.
Okay.
But we'll get more into that. Is that good?
Yes.
All right,
Thank
thank you very much. We have any more input at this time on this issue?
Nelson, 2413 Country Club Lane. I'm a little bit confused about how this is going to work. I think what's happening is it's a situation where it's a pride flag, and that's what started this whole policy. And I do know that the policy hasn't been really looked into because pride hasn't been presented to the city. So I'm with the last speaker. I'm not real sure if it means that there again, it's going to have to come before the city. If I ask for the pride flags to be flown and it's denied because of the policy, then come back before the city. And then the city council makes the decision.
That's the
I'm
way
just
it's written,
confused.
correct? It goes to the community development director, and if it's denied from there, it goes to the council potentially for appeal.
That's correct. And I would add, staff is tasked with executing the existing policy that the council can create a new policy altogether. We were given direction to examine, the existing policy and to make changes that would allow staff to more easily execute the policy. But it's up to the council to develop a new policy that would change that process.
And how does the planning commission work? Would that be something that the person that wants to flag go to them themselves, or how would that work?
Right, you could be referred to the planning commission, or for a temporary non-commercial sign, including but not limited to religious, charitable, civic, homeowner, those are exempt signs. So those could be, I think we're not getting to the nub of the question, which is, can you post them on city property? The streetlights where they've been posted in the past have been city property. You can post a pride flag on your house if you want, and it's exempt and no one could tell you not to. This is just, Ms. Nelson, on public right of way. And the statute, the ordinance is very clear that you can't put anything public right of way. None of this stuff can go on the public right of way. Correct me if I'm wrong, city manager, unless council, of course, comes in and changes the ordinance. But the policy right now is nothing. Now, and I'm cutting into your time. Do you have
So
anything?
how do we get this policy changed?
Well, that's what we're doing tonight. Yeah, that's why we're meeting.
Very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Any more input before we bring this back to council?
Jim Abelos, 1701 Dinuba. In the past, we've always accommodated the citizens, up there, you guys have took the Constitution and the oath in this country. Everybody's created equal, and we have to understand that. We got to put our differences aside sometimes and not put our own personal feelings in front of it. These flag issues are, we have the veterans flag, we have the parade flag, we have the Christmas flags out there. We have other flags out there in our community. And you made a comment earlier, if your chamber sponsored, you can have the flag out there. In other words, if I joined the chamber, in other words, I could have a flag then, right?
Number 4 says temporary signs for the purpose of announcing civic events sponsored by the city and or Chamber of Commerce is under the rubric of exempt signs, meaning they can be posted
Same situation. Okay,
and not on public property.
on profit. Okay.
Those
Yeah.
could be on public property.
Does it say that?
Yes.
Okay, where's 4? Where does it say that? Just,
So.
not saying it doesn't, just.
Right,
referring to it.
Section 11-28-3 exempt signs. Civic events sponsored by the city and or the Chamber of Commerce can be posted on public property because they're exempt from the requirements of that chapter.
What page?
What page is it?
So,
We're cutting into the
One,
gentleman's time.
157, I
Okay,
apologize.
go ahead,
On there.
Mr. Avalos. Continue, I'm sorry. We'll look for that later. This is your time.
No, I just, addressing some issues, that you guys, I want you guys to be aware of, you know what I mean? I want you, when you guys are making those decisions, I'm trying to help you guys down the road, okay? Just think about those issues, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
For Cervantes, this topic is kind of delicate because we'll allowed a group. I believe that in government property, the only flags should be flying out there is the state. Come down to the LGBT flag out there next month. I don't think it's fair. I think if they want to do it and people behind me, they want to help them out, put them on their own front yards. Let them do that. But to put it in a city on government property, I don't think it's right. I think you're violating. So I believe that it's not American flags and stuff like that. I don't think no flags should be up in the city. No room for that. I think that, and that's not being because I said, oh, you're racist stuff. No, it's just because that's the law. We just follow the law. Why turn it and make it, so difficult? But you focus on something more important than the flag. So I think that we should listen to the council and the city manager, and I think they're doing a great job. And not pressure them to do something that is not legal. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comment at this time? Anybody on Zoom? Okay, that will bring it back to the council. So I was just think we were all looking for more clarity in terms of the sign policy, and we found that we have a sign policy now. It's just a matter of taking a look at that and seeing if it's complete, or if we want to change it a little bit, or if we want to change it a lot. But it's pretty clear in terms of the signs that are approved and signs that aren't. On the flagpole, just correct me if I'm wrong. If you don't mind, if I could just summarize my understanding at this point, anybody correct me if I'm off. But the flagpoles, American, California flag, that's it, the flagpoles. The Veterans Park, I believe we talked at the last meeting, though not formally approved it, but keep that for veterans. And that would be veterans banners or American flags. That's it. Or flags of the service, because it's part of the government. It's part of the people who fought to keep us free, who risked their lives to keep us free. To me, that's government related. The issue, I think, is the lampposts, around the city. where we've got the banners that go up for Christmas, for Thanksgiving. Not banners. I guess you could call them banners. Yeah, banners that go up Thanksgiving, Christmas, the band festival for Rotary. That would be Second Street, High Street. And now Whitson. So my question that I have about this is there a particular location where more than just the chamber, which is exempt, the band festival, which is de facto exempt because they've been doing it for 40 years. Nobody's ever said anything, right? So, I mean, no one's ever said a word. But is there a place, instead of every lamppost, is there a particular place in the city, say, the Art Center, which could be designated as a place where flags of religious, charitable, civic, homeowner association, educational, cultural, or political signs could be displayed for a certain amount of time, not necessarily 30 days, but maybe 10 days based on a permit, whereas everything else would have to be either chamber or the band festival or Christmas or Thanksgiving? Or should it just be what we have right now minus any other group?
Mr. Mayor, let me, if I understand that's what you're seeing. Correct me if I'm wrong, City Manager. From what I understand is that you came back to us and told us, this is the policy, this is what we had to adhere to, staff. If you want to change the policy, let's get to a point, this is the first introduction, approve it, and then come back and give you, correct me if I'm wrong, give you information like the mayor's giving you, or we go back and say, we'll approve them individually, and we just weeded out the planning commission.
That's essentially correct, yes.
Okay, so right now we're dealing with impulsion of what the members of the community want versus what we should be doing right now is approving the recommendation of the policy and then going back and doing our homework, including your information, and maybe come to an agreement, because that would just wipe out the planning commission and just come back to the council. We'll just make our own policy.
But
Because the policy right now that we have,
the flag,
as
not
I
to
understand,
interrupt, sir, but just, I think tell us again, give us another lesson on what goes in front of the planning commission, what goes in front of the city council, kind of flex.
With the existing policy or the proposed policy?
We have an existing policy, which I believe is the proposed policy.
No, the existing policy, everything goes to the planning commission. If the community development chooses to refer it to the planning commission, appeals would be heard by the planning commission under the existing policy. Under the new proposed policy, non-commercial signs would be referred directly to the city council. But commercial signs would continue to be able to be referred to the planning commission.
Commercial
So-
signs like billboards and things
Business
like that.
signs,
Business
correct.
signs,
Mhm.
business related commercials. So they would still go to the planning commission. There's nothing impulsive about what I'm hearing tonight or about here. I think we've been discussing this off and on for months and months. Right, and we have a policy and it sounds like staff has come back and tweaked it a little bit. But what it's doing is it's, as one of the speakers said tonight, it's just kind of doing the same thing. It's going to bring anybody, it sounds like, can bring their denial, if they get that from the community development director, it can bring it back to council. And then we have what we had last year, which I don't think anybody wants to repeat. You know, I think we should have a streamlined, methodical, logical process.
But this would be the first step. The policy that we will. Have to go back. Us, make a.
Okay, so let me just walk through this. So if someone, so it is this proposed policy from staff stands. If someone goes with the pride flags, what happens? What happens? And says they want to post the pride flags on the lampposts.
Staff would have to follow the existing policy or the new proposed policy.
And the new proposed policy would say what about putting pride flags on the lampposts?
The
where they
same
were
thing it
last year?
says now, which they would not be allowed.
It would
So
be
they would have
not
to be
allowed.
denied.
So they
right.
would have to come to council to appeal that denial if they wanted it to happen. Okay, so
That's
we're
correct.
back in the same position. So I think what we talked about at the last meeting was, okay, I think we all got that. Do we want to put some of these flags that potentially are of a cultural, political, or religious or civic nature, have an area for one of those? I think Mayor Pro Tem Cho mentioned the flagpole next to City Hall. And I've heard it mentioned the flag post in front of the Arts Center as a place for one of those signs, with the rest being Chamber, Band Festival, Happy Thanksgiving, and Merry Christmas.
Mayor, if I may respond to that, the last time that we had this conversation, staff presented a policy for flagpoles, and staff were then directed to say, no, flagpoles in the city should be reserved for United States, California, City of Selma, and those types of flags.
Thanks
Let's
for
look-
clarifying. I meant lampposts.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
thank you. Flags only. Someone brought up the flagpole next to the city hall, but you're exactly correct. We had a gentleman stand up and read the ordinance, sort of the boilerplate state ordinance that says you can only put US or California flags. If that's off the table, that's fine, but we did talk about a particular place, a venue for one of these or several of these flags to be posted in Selma. So that's what I'm bringing up as respects this proposed ordinance, how that would be handled. Would the ordinance have to be changed to designate a particular lamppost for one of those flags? It would. Okay.
Yes. it
So so the city council tonight could take a look at this and say, this looks good, right? It's the policy, takes a lot of interpretation out of it. But there is a particular area where one of these signs of a religious, charitable, civic, homeowner association, educational, cultural, or political signs, but not obscene, could be posted. Could the council return a advice like that tonight?
Absolutely. As long as it's clear enough staff will follow any direction that the council gives in terms of the approval process.
Okay.
We just have to have a clear process so that staff is not violating First Amendment rights and subjectively approving or denying applications that come in for flags.
And this is for the lawyer, for Mary Lerner, thank you. This is, the question is not just exclude it, but I get that free speech, but is it constitutional to limit the area where you're allowed to post one of those flags, which may be seen as objectionable by some members of the community?
Yeah, you'd in essence be creating a public forum, and that's where you would choose to create that public forum.
And that public forum could be in the form of a lamppost.
Correct.
One of these street lights with a little prong out there to put the flag in.
That is correct.
And that could be anywhere in the city that the city council designates, including the Art Center or High Street or Second Street.
Wherever council chose.
Okay. So I would just bring that up as a potential topic, because otherwise we're going to go through this all again in a couple of weeks. Whereas if we designate a place for this, and of course it can't be obscene matter according to section 311 of the penal code, which describes sexual conduct in a patently offensive way, and the taken as a whole lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. As long as that isn't that, then the city council could approve the posting of that sign. In fact, the community development director could approve it, and it just goes from there in that particular area. If you approve the new one and designate a spot for that.
So the new one has to actually bring it back to council and take the planning commission off, right?
Yeah, first reading.
that's
Yeah,
what we
this is
need
just
to
the
do.
first reading, but I'm just saying we could add a zone, add an area for it, and then it wouldn't be such a hot button issue anymore, because it would limit the exposure and it would, at the same time, it would be giving people a forum in which to post. Is Art Center good?
Like, I have a quick question. Okay. I'm just wanting to make sure I'm correct here. If we design or revise the ordinance, is there a way we can design it where it does not come back to council?
Yes, I mean, there always has to be an appeal process because if staff denies it, it has to be appealable to the council, to the higher body. But if the ordinance is clear enough, if council gives clear enough direction about what specifically to approve and what specifically to deny, then I don't, you're still gonna have appeals, but then the council would basically uphold the staff's decision if the policy is clear enough. I don't know if there's, to answer your question, if there's any way to prevent anything from coming back to the city council.
So then we couldn't designate that decision to the community developer.
You could, and then they would issue their decision following the policy. And then whoever the applicant is would say, well, I don't want to be denied. I need to appeal to the city council. I want to take it to the council.
Clarify, so because, and this might, because we're a government entity, you have to have that grievance process, right?
Well, it's part of due process is what the city manager is talking about.
And other thing is, individuals that happen to have businesses where these light posts are at, they're businesses, right? So if the business says, I don't want that in front of my building, so then what happens then? Because now you have the business owner that potentially can leave the city because they don't want something in front of their business. And so I don't know who owns the art center, but, you know, and again, this is more of a, policy across the board. And again, because we are a public entity, we really need to look at these policies on a public entity side and not favor one over the other. And again, like I said, if it's in front of somebody's business and that business is not on board, then you have the potential of that business leaving and more businesses like that leaving because you're putting it, you know, you're being, I don't want to say it's subjective, but you're really putting it like in front of their building that they're going to say, no, I don't want it in front of my building. So those are all things that we need to think about when we're making these policies is that, yeah, it may be good for, you know, that person, that business owner may say, great, but what if the next business owner says, no, I don't want it in front of
Council
my-"
member, is that the point of what we're talking about, putting it in front of a city-owned property, which is the art center, in this case, a place of expression and creativity?
It's still a business, it's still a public entity. So that's
Oh.
where I have the,
Where would you put it then? And also, it works both
private,
ways.
on private property.
Well, then again, you're encouraging the owner of that private property to move away according to your argument.
I'm
So
not making
I-
that statement.
you would also, in my opinion, be encouraging people to see Selma as kind of a bastion of free expression and the First Amendment. And at the same time, listening to all the people who don't want, because there are people who don't want free expression either, and they have a right to express themselves within the context of free expression. But the idea that I think is getting floated right now is one place where these signs, this sign could be located, the duration to be, approved by the council, and nowhere else. The rest of the, Second, High, Whitson, the Veterans Park, is American flag, California flag, Rotary, band festival, Christmas, Thanksgiving. And then you kind of, you're doing both. You're allowing for that creative output at the same, and the people who may support that sign, and at the same time, you're not overwhelming people with that sign. So if you do that, I mean, you're doing both.
So with this, because the way that I'm reading this, it's also talking about, it includes, but it's not limited to flags, banners, pennants, streamers, unusual paint, color, non-structural displays, agricultural projects, like it's about a lot of things. And so I'm just, again, it's more of a, because it's on public property or publicly owned property, city property. That's, I want to make sure that we stick to.
Yeah, if the community development director has some pretty strict parameters, I think they could interpret it pretty well. And this is pretty specific, what these are listed as long as it doesn't violate section 311 of the California Penal Code, it could at least be considered by the community development director. Okay, do we want to move forward on this? Is there a motion to accept the reading with a modification? Or how about if I make the motion?
Okay.
I make the motion to accept this reading with the modification that we accept it and thank staff for the hard work and putting, really making an impossible task possible. So thank you for that. And bringing this back with the amendment that only signs that are non-commercial signs that are allowed per section 14, page 157 would be in front of the art center and would be for 10 days at a time. And that application would go to the community development director, right? And then if it denied, it would come to the council. Other than that, the only signs that could be posted would be patriotic or American flags in the Veterans Plaza and Whitson for the veterans banners and Chamber Band Festival, Thanksgiving and Christmas signs on 2nd and High Street. That's my motion
With the waiver of the first reading, Mayor.
with a waiver of the first reading. Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please. Yes.
Yes.
No.
No.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that good discussion. Thank you for everybody for your input. That will move on to council reports. City manager, departmental reports, city manager,
Nothing to report. Thank you, Mayor.
city attorney Lerner,
Nothing to report, Mayor and Council.
you deputy city manager Terry.
Very much, Mayor. Just a couple quick updates. Wanted to remind the council and the community that this week is the Selma Community Drop-Off Week. So we can drop off items at 5608 South Via Avenue in Fresno to the waste management facility there. Also want to make sure that everybody is reminded that this event does allow for tires and for mattresses and box springs, right? Which is something that we see very often. So all week long, those items are accepted for drop-off Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and this Saturday, 6 a.m. to noon. And then also wanted to remind the council that in front of the Art Center on Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., there will be the outdoor open house for the Downtown Business Improvement District as well. And lastly, who will also be available at that meeting for her very first meeting, we will be starting with our new economic development analyst tomorrow. That is the staff member that will be replacing Tracy Costa. So a vital position. Very much look forward to introducing her to starting tomorrow. And if you happen to be by the bid open house on Wednesday, you'll get a chance.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have a finance report tonight.
Interim Finance Director Emily Boyd.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Just want to let you know that we will be presenting quarter ending March 31st.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Public Works Director Shane Farrell. Thank you. Okay, Fire Chief Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Just a quick update on the city's new ladder truck. The last update I got on Friday of last week is the new engine has arrived in Denver to the dealership where the truck is located. They have gotten to work putting that back into place. The manufacturers decided through conversations that we've had, once it's finished and operable again, they will drive it back to Nebraska so that the manufacturer can then start all over, not on production, obviously, but just on the final inspections. any additional testing that would need to be done, such as pump testing and those types of certifications that will take place. They'll take place. They'll get all that taken care of. We'll go back, do another inspection, make sure everything is suitable, and then it'll come back out. So I'll keep you updated as I get new information.
Did they ever find out what happened to the engine?
Not that I've heard yet. They did send a representative from Spartan out to the manufacturer in Denver and to investigate, but I have not heard a report or anything like that on how that happened. I do know that every person I've talked to, from the manufacturer down to the dealer, has said this has never happened before.
Wow.
We're kind of operating. They're basically doing what we tell them to do. Whatever we want, they're pretty much moving forward with. Whatever inspections we want, anything like that, they're gonna take care of, because it's such a freak thing. So I'll keep
Our
you updated.
downtime.
What's that?
What's our downtime on this?
2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, they reported about 2 months. But they do believe on Friday, when they told me the engine had gotten there, they believe they're a couple weeks ahead. Fingers crossed.
Ross, thank you. Acting Police Chief Garza. Thank you. Thank you for your report earlier. Very informative. Parks and Community Services Director, Mike Kirshner.
Mayor Robertson, City Council, I just want to remind City Council, I think you saw an email. As you know, about 5 weeks ago, you approved the COVID-19 testing through Fresno County and Pioneer Village through September. They have made contact with staff and they will be ending their services here on April 23rd. The number of people being tested has just dropped tremendously. If the numbers do increase, they were going to go to something like the mobile blood mobile, where they would put out mobiles in Selma. And we talked about using the parks and parking lots. So as of right now, April 23rd seems to be the last.
April 23rd.
testing.
Okay.
Thank you.
One just quick question, the reader board status at Rose and McCall.
Yeah, we are working presently on that. The prices of the units have gone up, so it's going to be discussion in our
Inflation.
budget. Discussion about just adding some money to the 55,000 that was approved to carry it over to next fiscal year, or hope that the prices drop again. But right now, it's gone from a
Okay, fine.
$45,000 quote to a $78,000 quote. So
Think about that one.
that's, unfortunately, COVID-19 is kind of what everybody blames it on.
Thank you for that update. Okay, council reports, Councilmember Mendoza Navarro.
A couple things. I was hoping that we had the goals and priorities workshop earlier, but I know we postponed it. But I finished up the 2022 Housing California Conference, and just real quick brief on that. The word partnership, get creative, talk to your legislation bodies, and then partnerships, but a lot of using private and public partnerships, to create housing, and that there's a lot of money out there in the state. And so just really talk to your legislative bodies. I attended the Central Valley Training graduation. I believe this was the fourth one. And one of them, I'm so happy because it was my neighbor. I remember seeing him when he was growing up, and I talked to his parents, and they were like, keep up the project, or keep up this program, because it's a great program for those kids that don't want to go to school. Hands-on. So great event. I also attended the mypark.com ribbon cutting for the Swat Barney Brothers. That was really nice. Had a really Barney Brothers. I attended the car show in Kingsburg, and I was happy to see that there was a few members of our Chamber of Commerce there to try and get ideas and try to get those conversations going with some of those people that were there, so that maybe we could something like that here, and that would be great. And then just in a kind of personal note, I had to go over to Walgreens Saturday, and there was a couple of tour buses, and I knew they were not from here, obviously, because they're tour buses, right? but I was able to talk to a couple of the passengers there. And I said, hey, where are you guys coming from? And they said, oh, we're coming from LA. And I said, do you guys happen to be on your way to Sequoia? And they said, yes, we actually are. Is it the Sequoia National Forest? Is that what we have? Yosemite, I'm sorry, Yosemite. I'm so bad. I have never been there. And I live here. And they said, yes, we're actually on our way to Yosemite. So it got me to thinking that are the hub. We're like right midway point from LA. A lot of attractions, around us and everything. And I thought if we can get a couple of buses here, every so often, and they were literally walking. They were parked at Walgreens, but they were walking from Rite Aid, from Circle K, McDonald's, like they, walked around all that area. So I thought this is a perfect town for us to have, we're just centered perfectly. And so I'm excited about our workshop that we're going to be having. And I'm looking forward to a lot of the community and economic development, the growth that we have coming to the city. And that's pretty much all that I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Trujillo.
Attended also the high-speed rail graduation. Also attended the Barney's ribbon cutting. That's about it. I've been really busy. So.
Thank you. Councilmember Guerra.
I think I'm repeating myself as well. I attended the Farney opening for my park or my car park, and it was a great event. I just couldn't believe the size of scissors that they had, but that was great. And the food trucks that they had out there, that was a great, nice event. Something like, we can look at in the future when we want to do our mixers or, have a nice event where we can get food trucks to come out. I thought that was really nice. Also attended the Central Valley Training graduation, which is the fourth one. I'm kind of glad to see that they're doing a little more, being a little more proactive with the candidates and helping them get positions because, the first graduation we went to, the mayor and I walked in and they thought we were going to hire them. They were asking if we were interviewing them for a job. And they were looking to get they wanted to have a job right out, hired right off the spot. And we sadly had to tell them that we were just council members. But I'm glad to hear that they have now partnered with the VROP and some of these other entities that will help them get positions because we all know, it takes about a year to get on with the state. So I'm kind of glad to see that they're helping them with that. The other thing I attended was the SKF meeting, and we talked about a few items or projects that they're looking at, and Clarkson Lift Station the expansion came up, and which is great, but the funding there, they ran about 2.9 million it's going to cost for that expansion. Okay, and then my question is do we have a start date on that, Fernando?
The expansion is currently in the design process, so our engineers are working on those plans.
Then other than that, on a personal note, I hope everybody had a nice Easter. I sure did. And hey, we're all blessed, so thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho.
I'd like to thank all the city staff, you guys, with your hard work you're doing for us. Rob, thank you for that report because it's kind of nice to hear that our city is moving, some direction is going. So it's kind of neat to hear that. I did attend the Central Valley Training graduation also. This is the fourth one and they've graduated 60 graduates. And they actually have helped them, 65% actually have found jobs already for them, okay? I went to the My Car Park also, and what it is basically used cars. It's similar to a CarMax that Fresno has, and there's really a good, good varieties and everything. And I was talking to Mr. Farney, the senior farmer, and he says, used cars is the way to go because they actually could not get the new cars onto the lot. So basically they're following up with what is the in demand, and they want to do maybe a couple more of those. So that is in their plan. Treat I had was actually, this was one of the silent auction prizes from the Chamber Award dinners. And it was a lunch with Sheriff Mims. That was really cool. She actually bought our lunch. So that was fun. So it's good to see her. I've seen her. She was one of my regular customers also. And I think that's all I have. Thank you.
I also went to the Farney Auto Dealership ribbon cutting. Huge surprise there. It was amazing. And what was really cool, I'll take my angle on it, is it was like a pop-up ribbon cutting event, kind of like the pop-up farmers markets that we're seeing that we just saw downtown on High Street. And it seems like the business owners are taking these things that they would have passed off to organizations before, and they're doing it themselves. And technology is allowing them to do that. And I think it's a really exciting time and a time of empowerment for us as citizens and us as business owners to not have to depend or be part of a huge organization. We can do it ourselves. And they're living proof that you can do your own ribbon cutting and do a really good job. I attended the Central Valley Training Program, another very good graduation in Selma, 60 people, majority from Selma. Hopefully they do have funding for another year at least, so that's really good. On Tuesday, April 19th in Clovis, Kerman and Reedley, there will be a Measure C renewal meeting, which is really important for Measure C. You know, there's a movement to get it on the ballot this year instead of 2026 when it expires. And there will be a virtual meeting on April 22nd. Last item, I attended a LAFCO meeting as an alternate. I very, very rarely get to attend one of those meetings, but I got an active one, which was the annexation of Academy Avenue to 180 for the city of Sanger, which was a big one. You had two different sides and they went at it and they resolved it. And the annexation was ultimately approved for 238 acres. But that was very interesting seeing that community grow and how Selma can grow as well. I want to say thank you to staff. Thank you for your reports, your professionalism. Thank you for everything you do. You do the work and people are noticing and much appreciated. But most of all, I want to thank the people. I want to thank the citizens of Selma who support our city, who go to work and they pay their taxes and they do the right thing. And some of them even get into city government or get in organizations and give back. And that's a good thing. And I think we have a really good city in terms of diversity of ethnicities and people who do want to give back to their community. And I think that's that really sets us apart from many communities and makes it a great place to live. With that, we'll ask for our final oral communications tonight. Does anybody have anything they would like to say? We have anybody on Zoom or on the phone? 9 o'clock. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Current week, yep, started today, goes all the way.
Back out at their dump site.
It is, yeah, so you got to go to their dump site out front.